And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
Right, attention to roll call.
That's right, everybody. Live, 8:05 a.m. Here we go, Eastern time, and of course, 5:05 Pacific time, coast to coast. It's bright and early. This is going to be a good one. Monday, right after the weekend. I'm sure if Juju's here or Kaz Daughtry or John Shell's watching from the NYPD, they're going to love this one. This one's going to be educational. This one's for you. So, can public officials block citizens on social media? That's the age-old question. A lot of people ask me that. I think this is going to be an educational one. So, John, let's jump right into it. What are your immediate thoughts?
Sure, but before we do, this episode is sponsored by Midol. No, I'm like,
You Patrick Donahue.
I'm only kidding, Pat Donahue, but you know.
Actually, we both said Midol. I'm pretty sure that's a laxus. We both had to look it up.
I don't know. You're dating yourself, Pat, because we didn't even know what the hell it was. I was like, what the hell's Midol?
I'm using it.
We'll sponsor it today. Yeah.
Also, just want to say again, I'm wearing the shirt for Derek. Thank you so much for supporting Derek. And unfortunately, for me, I was telling you the other day, John, it's like the red car theory. It just seems like every other person I speak to now, either themselves or a family member has been touched by cancer. So please bring awareness to it. If anyone needs support first responders.
Oh, Eric doesn't have Starlink, but he has. We're gonna call it Laguna Beach Wi-Fi. So his Wi-Fi has been clicking out. So I don't know. You might have to jump on your phone today, Eric, because this one's getting a little bad. But yeah, speaking. Oh, there you go. You're back. All right, you were out that whole time, dude. So while you might have to get on your phone, dude. It's pretty bad. But like speaking of cancer, we just had a fundraiser on our social media. There's a 1013. There's a 1013 that's going on for Lieutenant Christina Hall. She's going to be at a Mets game. That's on my X. I'll bring that up in a little while. So there's a 1013. There was a GoFundMe set up for her. And then we had a tragedy that occurred over the weekend, unfortunately. A member of service took his own life. That is also on our social media. There is a Fund the First campaign going out to support his wife and his children. Mental health, cancer. I mean, it's horrible, man. So we appreciate all the love and support that this community brings to everybody who's affected by all of these. Because I don't think enough could be said about that. So there's a 1013 event. Like it's going to be a Mets game. I believe tickets range from like $65 to $110. That's going to be at Citi Field. I'll get you the dates. I don't know off the top of my head. And then again, if you go on our social media at the Finest Unfiltered on Instagram or at the Finest Cast on X, you could find both of those fundraisers over the last 2 days. I don't know. I still say I don't think the department. I don't think law enforcement as a whole is doing enough to acknowledge mental health in law enforcement. I think it's it's really systemic at this point. I think a lot of people suffer bouts of mental illness in law enforcement throughout their career and then after their career. No secret, I've had my own struggles. I've told you all about that. I still go through it every day. I feel like I battle it every day. Weird, very weird. You stop working, life's good, you got money, you live in a beautiful place, and boom, all these weird things start happening with the mind. So just try to raise awareness that if you see anybody acting weird, you feel something's going on, please talk to them. Let them know that there's, there's dark days and there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. Fortunately, life has a way of grabbing all of us. So enough of my rant on that. Before Eric gets back, the reason we put this episode together is someone had sent me a patch of the deputy mayor of public safety, right? And so I couldn't tell if it was a 5 stars above the patch or if it was 6 stars above the patch. So I don't think I've ever really go on Kaz Daughtry's social media, ever. I don't follow him. I don't have notifications put on for him. I never really commented to him. I rarely reposted him. Maybe once or twice I've reposted him. He's reposted me once or twice by accident. So rarely do I ever interact with Kaz Daughtry online anymore. Obviously, in the beginning, after me and Eric did an episode on Kaz Daughtry, he started coming out, and he sent basically used taxpayers' fund to send his team, his A team, John Shell, all their little cronies to try to smear, defame, threaten, intimidate us. Obviously didn't work. But since then, I think it's been pretty quiet, right? Like, we haven't really had any issues with him. We really stopped doing the memes. We don't put those out anymore. We put more clips out, try to make the platform more professional. You know, the memes were just a way of saying, like, you're not going to shut down our free speech. You're public officials. You're not going to intimidate us. You're not going to scare us. But those have stopped in the last months. You know, we have not put any of that stuff out. So I went on Kaz Daughtry's social media just to see if Above the Shield of Deputy Mayor of Public Safety was a 5-star or a 6-star, right? So, Eric, your camera's off. So I went above that, and I couldn't ascertain it. So I decided, let me go on his social media. So I go on his social media, and I get the thing, I'm blocked. Now, days prior to that, Mullen had put out that he was blocked. So then after that, I'm like, I wonder who else is blocked. Sal Greco's blocked. Eric Dim's blocked. All members of the Finest Unfiltered are blocked. And I'm like, wait a minute. Time out. You're a public servant. You serve the people of New York City. I own a home in New York City. I pay taxes in New York City. I am there frequently. You are a public official, whether I was a tourist, whether I didn't live there or didn't own a home there, really doesn't matter. You're a public official. You're accountable to the people, not just to the people in New York City. But you are especially accountable to me. So I go on and I look at it and I'm like, wow, I'm blocked. Eric's blocked. Sal's blocked. Marlon's blocked. I'm like, I know that they can't block us because I had an issue recently with, you good now, Eric?
Yeah, I apologize. Thank you, everybody. Listen, it's not a Starlink this time. I have no idea. I'm in Airbnb. I don't know. It's glitching, but we're back. Thank you so much. Keep going. You're doing a great job, brother.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and recently I had with Congressman Richie Torres. He looks like he's trying to run for governor. I had reposted something that he said supposedly on his personal account, but it was clear campaign information, right? And I had reposted that with a video of him saying that he wanted to defund the police. And all I did was ask, I said, Congressman, how do you correlate what you're saying now to your stance in 2020 when you wanted to defund the police? And he blocks me. And so I sent a message to him. I said, Congressman, if you don't unblock me, I will be filing a complaint and in order to seek legal action against you. And I guess he checked the law and he unblocked me. I guess he had spoke to his legal team and he had unblocked me. So I'm like, okay, this is actually what it is, right? They can't keep you from a town hall. Eric, what do you think about public officials or elected officials who use their social media, whether they write personal account on it or they write it's an official account, when they're talking about job duties that relate to their official capacity?
So that's an interesting question. And that's a great question because there's actually law on it. So how the law is stipulated is very simple. And it's kind of like a two-pronged system. So the actual account has to reflect it's a public official, someone that actually has legitimate authority in city or state local government. So if we talk about Kaz Daughtry, he has authority in city, state, and local government in his position, a position of authority. The second prong is that account actually talks about public information or talks about government information, or it just has any type of documents or anything that validates that it's an actual account that reflects city, state, or local government. And if it's a personal account, if that personal account has nothing affiliated with them being a public official and it doesn't have anything affiliated
with the public itself. Let's say, for instance, rhetorically speaking, let's say Kaz Daughtry had a social media page with just him and his family, him and his kids, nothing related to the NYPD, nothing related to his position as deputy mayor, and he didn't talk about anything. Let's just say he put pictures of Disneyland and just him, he would have more discretion. What does that mean? It means it's still subject to interpretation, even with that account. But in order for it to be an account that is personalized and not connected, it would have to fit those parameters. And even with that, it would still be subject to interpretation. So his accounts that he claims are personal reflect him as a position of authority. And he still talks about and still has pictures and imaging of city, state, and local government, NYPD, or stuff going on with deputy mayor. So with that, meets legal limitations. And with those legal limitations, he violates First Amendment speech. It doesn't matter if you're a tourist. It doesn't matter if you're a resident of New York City. It's the burden is on Kaz Daughtry or anyone as a public official to make that determination for their page. Not the person say, well, I'm a tourist or I'm not a resident. I don't have the same access. Absolutely not. They're the public official and we all have access to them, not the other way around.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. So, like, and that's the thing. Like, what Richie Torres was doing is using his personal account to speak on political issues, right? That he can't speak about on his official account, right? So he's basically essentially campaigning, right? He was throwing feelers out there for mayor or governor, right? And then I guess when Cuomo got in the race, it was, well, I'm going to run for governor. Cuomo will run for mayor, right? That's what it appeared to be to me. But he was speaking about politics. He was speaking about public safety. Those are duties related to his official capacities. He blocked me because he didn't want the truth about him, that he's the defund the police advocate, just like Eric Adams was, right? Except Eric Adams, actually, as dumb as he is, social media-wise, he ignores. I think he's the smartest of all of them, right? So Kaz Daughtry, he has this one account, right? He has this one account, has 163 followers on it. The only reason he has 163 followers on it is because when he created the account at the height of him and John Shell going out on social media, berating reporters, attempting to intimidate reporters, using the strategy that they tried to inflict on me and Eric, and then bringing it out onto mainstream media, mainstream print reporters. They both came out and made their own official accounts. Kaz Daughtry had made his. So I reshared it. I said, oh, Kaz Daughtry had just made it a personal account. He instantly blocks me. Fine. It's his personal account. I don't know what's on there, right? He has 163 followers. That's his one account. I don't care about that account. That's not the account that concerns me. This is the account that concerns me, right? Here you see a picture, taxpayer-funded photo, right? Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, personal account. He just writes personal account on it. He has 18,000 followers on it. You know why he has 18,000 followers on him? He doesn't have 18,000 friends. I'll tell you why he has 18,000 followers. Because that was NYPD Daughtry account. That's what that X account was. So like I said, what him and John Shell were doing is I said he got his own name. Everybody else has at chief of patrol, at chief of department, at chief of this, right? Kaz Daughtry has at NYPD Daughtry. And at the time, I was asking, I said, how does this work that someone has their own NYPD X handle? He's basically essentially using taxpayers' fund to build a business to be an influencer later on. And that's exactly what he's done. So he's taken a taxpayer-funded account. He's spent millions of dollars having people follow him around, create videos, edit videos, travel to places in order to build this 18,000 followers, right? So what does that mean? It means he's monetized on X. It means he gets paid on X, right? That's what it means. That account is the NYPD Daughtry account. He just changes it to Kaz Daughtry. And now, so he's trying to say that he has two personal accounts. So he blocked me. He blocks Eric. He blocks Marlon. He blocked Sal without us ever even saying anything to him. We didn't respond to him. We didn't repost him. We didn't say anything to him at all. So When I go to look at his account and I'm blocked, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. This was the NYPD Daughtry account. This was a taxpayer-funded account. So he used public funds to build a business for himself, essentially, because now he has a monetized account on X. He posts all day long about stuff that's happening in New York City and has his work as a deputy mayor on this account. So anyone in the country, anyone in America should have the right to speak to him, because essentially what the internet is now is a town hall. A public official, you could go to any town hall and they cannot stop you from sleeping. Public official cannot stop you from speaking. X is a town hall. Kaz Daughtry has illegally blocked us.
So to even validate and solidify, about almost 2 years ago at this point, John and I were heavily involved doing a monthly meeting with the CCRB where we attended virtually. And John and I both would give testimony. You get a period of 4 minutes at the CCRB virtual meetings. If anyone's ever interested in attending, please let us know. We still do it. Obviously, we've been so busy with the podcast. It's growing. We've kind of tailed back from it, but we're still heavily involved. Sometimes I still take part. So there is a monthly meeting with CCRB where it's virtual, and there are actual physical attendees at the meeting. And there was one I attended personally where I was actually denied the opportunity to speak. I was never called upon. So John and I both got together. We decided to make a DOI complaint. So I made a DOI complaint, actually through internal affairs from the NYPD. I had them make the notification. And the next meeting that I attended, I was the first to speak. So anytime I actually attend these CCRB meetings, I'm the first to speak. I know they probably hate it, but that's because of First Amendment speech. That, to me, is on parallel with an ex-town hall, as John's saying, or any type of town hall where there's public officials and you have a right to voice your opinion. That's First Amendment speech. And what Kaz Daughtry is doing, it's not just a conflict of interest. He's violating the law. There are legal limitations to your ability as a public official to have discretion when it comes to an account. And that account has to be exactly what I said earlier, has to be a private account that does not have those two prongs. Does it reflect you as a public official? And it has nothing to do with any imaging or anything that's reflective on your professional work environment. And if you really think about it, as a public official, and the more apparatus and the more eyes around you as a public official, and the more authority that you have, it's kind of hard to do that. It would be pretty tough, let's say, for instance, Mayor Eric Adams, to have a personalized account that had nothing to do with him being mayor and had nothing to do with his capacity as a mayor. And it kind of holds true also. If you're the deputy mayor, that holds extreme amount of authority. You're in charge of coordinating several agencies. It would be pretty tough for you to have anything on your account that doesn't identify you as a public official and doesn't identify anything that's surrounded with your position in that as a person of authority. So that's why I say there's legal limitations, and you have just little discretion when it comes to those personalized accounts. But what Kaz Daughtry is doing is exactly what you said, John. He's actually taking taxpayer money. So that also, with that conflict of interest, it's almost as saying that he's having some type of off-duty employment, because those X accounts are monetized. Those Instagram accounts are monetized, and he's getting money from that by utilizing it, influencing the taxpayer to fund Kaz Daughtry's social media accounts. Because as John said, there's no doubt about it. Without his position of authority, without that base, those personalized accounts are not having that growth. So there's definitely not just a conflict of interest. This is violating the law. And anyone that's being blocked by a public official, you should take action.
Well, think about that, right? Think about how much they used to build to the 18,000 followers, right? They were paying social media consultants. They were using photographers, video makers, video editors. They were traveling to these locations, highly edited videos. So what they did is essentially build a profile online for Kaz Daughtry for his own personal use, using millions of dollars in taxpayer funds. That is one part of the complaint that I'm going to be filing if this isn't rectified. by 3 p.m., close of business, end of day. That is one part of the complaint that I'll be filing with DOI on Kaz Daughtry, because I think that it's wrong, and I think we need to keep our elected officials and our public officials in line, right? They essentially work for us. Someone's like, oh, cops don't like when you say you do work for us. I know I didn't like it either, but guess what? It's the truth. It's the truth. We're taxpayers. We're citizens. You swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, right? Against what? Against enemies, foreign and domestic, right? It doesn't mean that just because the mayor said that you're a good guy, that you might not be an enemy of the Constitution. If you're violating First Amendment, if you're keeping citizens quiet, you got a problem. So that is one part of it. One, the misuse of taxpayer funds. Two, what's the other part of it? You blocked us for absolutely no reason other than you don't like us. We didn't even comment to you. Like, so it's not like, so let's just go example. We go full blown EDP. And all day long, every post that Kaz puts out, we blast them, we repost it, we send memes on them all day. At that point, do you think he has the right to block you?
That's a good question. So that's a great question. So as a public official or as a cop, right? We're putting the parallel here. You're supposed to have thick skin. So if it's banter and it's critiquing you in a professional manner, then those comments need to stay there, right? You're not allowed to delete comments. Now, if it's something if they're being threatened or it's just completely stuff that's just disgusting, if they're making false claims, any form of slander or libel, those I think they should be allowed to delete and allowed to block. If it's something that's just threatening and harassing, which is problematic, not just for that public official, but as a safety issue and concern for everyone that views that, yeah, then I have no problem. But if it's just banter and it's critiquing the actual public official, whether they don't like it or not, those should remain. If you say, hey, you're doing a terrible job on A, B, and C, well, those comments should stay there because that's an actual critique. Now, if they say, Kaz Daughtry, I don't like the way you look, and when I see you, we got a problem, yeah, you should be allowed to block. That's someone that's threatening. That's something completely different. If it's threatening, harassing, slander, libel, false information, sure. But if it's just banter and it's critique, that should stay. You're supposed to have thick skin, man.
Well, the thing is, it's public information. So public officials cannot delete their posts. They cannot alter their accounts. They technically can't even do what you're saying, even if someone's harassing you.
Correct.
How many 911 calls have we gotten from people who claim that there's an entity coming through their phone that's attacking them every day? How many 311 calls have we got saying that the president has them kidnapped? And we respond there all the time, every day. Now, we have not harassed Kaz Daughtry. We had not even responded on him. We had not reposted him. But even if we did, I don't think he has the ability to block us. I don't. If we threaten him, he has the ability to file a police report. He has the ability to get us arrested. I don't believe he has the ability as a public official to block us from a town hall in a town forum. Now, if we show up at that town hall and we're rowdy and we're acting disorderly and of course, then you could be removed from that town hall. But they cannot stop your ability from speaking. Words on a tweet. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. If you can't handle criticism, constructive criticism, by the way, because I do believe that the criticism that we offer is on point. He, like the Kaz Daughtry, had recently done an interview where he said his only criticism comes from retired members. I'm gonna clarify your statement. Your criticism comes through retired members by way of the rank and file. It's really the active members that criticize you the most, whether you know that or you don't. So I'm going to say I disagree. I think that even if you were in there all day long, reposting him, commenting on him, I still don't think he could do that. But here we're talking about the PBA, right? People are bringing up the PBA, the comment section. Does he have the ability to block out the comment section? And I say absolutely not, because in my opinion, the PBA is not an elected official. They're a fraternal organization. They actually can. I don't see how they're public officials. They're a different organization. The Hispanic Society could block you out. The NYPD baseball club could block you out. I'm talking about public officials talking about public matters. I'm talking about elected officials talking about public matters. I don't believe at all that they have the ability to stop you from commenting on their posts, because if they do, they are essentially removing your voice from the town hall of ideas, which is social media, which is a violation of your First Amendment rights. They do not have the ability to do that as public officials.
So let me go back. Let me reflect back what I was saying before. Now you asked me, could they, or what do I think? Because what I was saying is, I believe in First Amendment speech, but I think if someone is harassing them or threatening them, I don't think it's necessary. I think they should be allowed to block them if they're being threatened or harassed. Just as if you had a town hall, you would not allow someone in if they're threatening or harassing; they would be trespassed, right? But when it comes to the actual, I agree. Could they? And I believe the answer is no. I think at this point, they can't block them by any means, and they can't delete any comments by any means. Exactly what you said. They can report them. Sure. If they're being threatened and harassed, they can make that report. I don't think they can delete them. And that I agree with you. So I think that you kind of have to look at, I think we're making a good analogy here. You have to look at social media and imagine social media was an actual forum, right? And so I think because it's not tangible in a sense as an actual physical forum that you're present there, that we don't see it in the same light. But you kind of have to look at social media as if Kaz Daughtry's social media account was him standing at a podium and you're in that room with him, whether it's an X account or actually having a conversation on his account, you have to view it as if you're actually, imagine there was actually four walls around you guys and you were actually at a physical forum. That's pretty much what it's supposed to be. And that's the kind of unparalleled. And there you do have a right to attend. You have a right to make comments. You have a right to agree. You have a right to disagree. Now, if you threaten, harass, and if it was actually at a physical forum, you would be removed. You know, obviously, if it was something threatening. So when it comes to social media, that's where it's kind of different, right? Would you actually remove them? Not necessarily remove them, but you can report, right? You can report those accounts, but I don't think you can block those accounts. So I agree. From everything that I read so far, there's no knowledge to me or any literature that indicates that they can actually delete or actually remove anyone from their account by any means at all. So, what's that?
Yeah, no, they can't.
I don't think so. Yeah,
You said, but you think that they should be able to. I don't think that they could.
I think if it's something, if they're being threatened, I think they should be able to. That's the only point. As far as banter, even if they're, like I said, if they're saying stuff, if it's like I said, the critique or memes, things like that, you should never block those. Absolutely, you're supposed to have a thick skin, and you're supposed to allow critique. That's it's almost like getting a review if you're in a restaurant. If it's something threatening, like, hey, I'm going to kill you or something like that, God forbid, that obviously, I think you should be allowed to block someone like that. But I don't think you can. And I've read a lot on it. I can't find anything on it.
Yeah, I just don't think you can. I don't think that you can. Well, you can't. And then I don't think that you should either, because I still believe it's an attack on First Amendment. The same way that somebody might be a wacko tomorrow, maybe today, maybe they really do suffer from mental illness, and maybe they have they have a day of clarity and they have an actual point that they want to speak some. It's a violation of First Amendment. So I all around don't support it. So by 3 p.m., we'll be filing a complaint with DOI. After that complaint, however that complaint pulls out, we will be seeking legal action to further this. Now, we're not looking for money out of any of it. We just want what's right is right, and we want our public officials and our their appointed management to understand that you can't do this. You have to abide by the Constitution. You have to abide by the rules. So if I have to waste hours of my life in order to get you to do that, I will. Right? Richie Torres was smart enough to just do what he knew was right and hit the unblock button. That's it. That's all it is. And you know how many times I've commented to Richie Torres since? 0. You know, the other thing is, like, I think you see the childishness in Kaz Daughtry through this, because I want to just reflect back on the first episode we did, Nepotism in the NYPD, where we gave our analysis on the appointment of Kaz Daughtry to assistant commissioner. We did that because our audience had requested us to speak about it, and we gave our honest opinions on what it was. And we both sat there and said, Kaz, we don't blame you for taking it. We would take it too. Nobody's blaming you for taking it, right? And that's when all the attacks started, right? And how do you think? I mean, I think about it often, and I'm like, if that was me and it really bothered me, I mean, I probably would have just ignored it, but if it really bothered me, I would have just came on the podcast. And how do you think things would have went then? Right? And then maybe we made fun of him about his drone thing. Come on the podcast again. Like, I don't understand, like, how this guy is put in a position to be a deputy mayor when he can't handle the slightest well-deserved criticism. Can't take a joke. Nothing.
Opposition meets opportunity, and I always say communication breaks barriers. If Kaz Daughtry took the opportunity to come on this podcast, or anyone else that's in opposition to this podcast, it actually would disarm them and disarm us, and we'd actually have a better relationship. Now, I'm not saying we have a bad relationship with Kaz. I'm not saying we have a bad relationship with John Schell. They may have a bad relationship with us because they have personalized this relationship. But the relationship that we have with public officials and anyone in the upper echelon of the NYPD is giving a professional critique. And John, I think you said it best. It's actually via the rank and file, because the rank and file cannot speak out. You know, we've had numerous encounters with people on social media where we're getting cops and detectives that recently retired, excuse me, and are now speaking out about the atrocities of the NYPD. And some of the critics say, well, you didn't say anything while you're working. Why are you saying it now? Well, because they couldn't. That's the whole point of this podcast. We are a voice for the rank and file that is currently employed by the NYPD or any other law enforcement agency or any agency that is facing internal pressures of that agency and not getting the respect that they deserve. Because while you're working, you can't speak out. If you speak out, you'll be fired. That's why it's important to have a strong union. That's why it's important to have a great relationship with retirees that have that ability to speak for you, such as this platform, such as this network. The Finest Unfiltered is a voice for the people within the department that don't have a voice at this time because they're currently employed. We have the First Amendment speech. We have the ability that they do not. So that critique I just find completely polarizing. But again, there are others out there also that are public officials that block accounts unnecessarily and they're not being held accountable for it. Not just Kaz Daughtry. Now, Kaz Daughtry, I think this is the worst case scenario. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. He took a preemptive strike immediately against myself, John, Sal, Marlon, anyone affiliated with this podcast to actually block us before there was any interaction. It just shows there's already a personalized emotion there. And that is a major problem, showing that you can't handle your position as a public official or authority and think that we don't have First Amendment right because we're no longer residents of New York City. So obviously he doesn't understand his position. But there are others. For instance, Joe Fox. Joe Fox, I've never said anything unprofessional to him. I've been nothing but professional, but I have critiqued his position as a leader and as someone that has a position of authority in CCRB. I've critiqued him numerous times, and he blocked me from all accounts on social media. The nice guy that everyone loves, Joe Fox from the NYPD. Anyone here active or retired, you're probably familiar with Joe Fox. If you're an outside agency or someone who's a police enthusiast or just a civilian, Joe Fox was a chief with the NYPD. He was beloved. He's still beloved by many. In my opinion, is he a good guy? No. He's just a nice guy. He takes pictures with cops, but at CCRB, his rates are more damning than others, and he substantiates more complaints than anyone else. And for that, I gave him numerous critique, and he blocked me from his social media accounts. And in my opinion, Joe Fox is a public official. There's pictures of him constantly with cops. He's employed by CCRB.
That is his personal account. That's his personal account. He doesn't speak about his act as a CCRB official. That is his personal account. He could block you. He's no longer.
By what I read, by what I read by law, not necessarily, because it meets that two-pronged system. He does talk about on them, and sometimes he's had referred to his position at CCRB. He talks about the police department, and
If
he
talks
himself.
about his position at CCRB, then he can't block you. Then he's a public official.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and find that, but there is definitely stuff there. No, what you're saying. If he doesn't talk about CCRB, and if there's no imaging or nothing reflecting in his position as a public official, then he might have some discretion. But even then, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough because he is, in many aspects, he is a public official. He has authority on local government, and he's still affiliated with the police department. He takes pictures with cops. He talks about his love for the cops. So I think that I think his account could be interpreted as a public official account.
I mean, I take it back. Maybe I think you might be right. He's employed by the city. And he's talking about official matters of the city.
Yeah, to me, that would be a public official.
That's a public official. Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't think there's. I mean, the law, from what I read, is kind of vague. It just says that they have a position of authority and in city, local, and state government, and they talk about stuff that has to do with that, and that's what he does. I mean, does it have to be him talking about just CCRB? No, he talks about police. He talks about agencies. I think if it was just, I know he has some type of leadership business. If it was just his business and had no affiliation with CCRB, doesn't have any pictures of NYPD, there may be an argument. But again, it's open to interpretation.
No, yeah, I agree. That's an iffy one. He's probably not allowed to block anyone too. Just him taking pictures with cops is like, I think that opens it up enough. I do. And
that's the majority of his social media platform is pictures with cops. Cops love to take pictures with him.
Now, but if he wasn't working for the CCRB, then he could block you 100%.
Agreed. 100%. Agreed. 100%.
Yeah.
I think, John, overall, the point is, what I've read and what I understand, it's pretty tough if you're a public official to have a personal account that's not affiliated with your position at all.
I mean, I would think so, because anything, especially when you're in public safety, I mean, you could talk about anything and it relates to public safety, unless you're just taking pictures of the sunset every day, or your kids, or like you going on vacation. I mean, like what Kaz Daughtry's doing, that is an official account. I mean, the whole thing, it hasn't even changed from the NYPD account. You can't be using taxpayer funds to create photos of yourselves at funerals and videos of yourself at press conferences and then sit there and say, no, it's my personal account because you put a little tag on it. And then preemptively block people too. Like a huge violation of the First Amendment. Daniel, I'm going to mangle your last name, but Krasinska, I think it is. He said that you could file a complaint with the ACLU or the New York Civil Liberties Union, and they will file cease and desist on your behalf. I don't think they're going to do so for me, but I'll give it a shot. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'll give it a shot anyway.
That's hilarious.
But 100%, I am gonna file a complaint with DOI if it's not rectified by 3 p.m. because it's wrong, man. It's wrong. I think Pat's talking about the unions. I think with the unions, it's a little different, man. Like I think if you blocked a union paying member, then I think you have a problem. You know what I mean? Like, why'd you block me off of social media? But like the SBA blocked me. And they preemptively blocked me too. I mean, what's my recourse there? Like, why do I even care? Why do I need to be able to see their posts? I don't. You know what I mean? I do think, however, if you pushed the issue, technically it's representing public officials. The account, they're speaking about official public business. I think if you push the issue, they'd have to unblock you too. I just could give two shits, but like I think if we push the issue with that one too, because again, social media is really there's a lot of ills of social media, but the one thing you got to say is it's connected everybody, right? You have the ability to speak with anybody and everybody at any time. You have the ability to contact anybody at any time. And, it really is a huge virtual town hall at the end of the day. I mean, that's how I use it. I use it as a town hall of discussions on politics. That's how I use it. You don't see pictures of my kids. You don't see pictures of my wife. You don't see what I do every day. If you look at my social media, like, wow, all this guy does is talk about politics.
So it's interesting, right, that we talk about this. So for a long period of time, I kept close to my chest the monster disease that my son was suffering from. It was almost a year till it actually came out, and what I was experiencing in the battle I've been going through this year. And part I said, obviously, I felt ostracized by the police department. I really wanted to protect my kids and my family by not announcing it. But it's something also that I thought about. So here, in some ways, we're kind of, we have public accounts, right, and we have social media accounts, and not necessarily that we're public officials, but you and I, pretty much, we don't block anybody unless they're really, threatening. But for the most part, we don't block anybody. So that's the same thing, right? I have to understand that opens me up, right, to critique not just on the podcast and the platform, but also my family. Now that information's out there, so it's something that we have to have thick skin for, right? And I think that's what these public officials have to understand, that even though that you might believe you have personalized accounts, you're still a public official. That's why I say it's very hard to retract from that. I mean, even if you look at Kaz Daughtry's account, if we were to reverse engineer that account and look at it from the followers to Kaz Daughtry, I would say most likely those, what would you say, it's 130,000 followers or something like that? I would say the majority of those followers are probably affiliated with the NYPD. They're probably affiliated with New York City politics. They're probably affiliated with New York City government. And that would even reflect, just to show them that personalized account is not as personal as you believe. So unless we take action, nothing will happen. And again, I think you're right, John. We're not looking for any money, but they have to be held accountable. Absolutely. These are public accounts. They expect police officers to have thick skin. They're leading police officers. They should have thick skin also. And with that being said, police officers have to be careful also with their social media accounts, because if we look at this, I think police officers, their actual social media can be viewed as an account that they can't block people also, because a police officer is considered a public official. So again, I think the same applies for a police officer. So I think they need to be careful with their social media also, as far as who they block, and be careful that what type of interactions or conversations they're having on their social media platforms. Do you think a police officer, just a police officer, someone on patrol, is a public official on social media?
100%.
Exactly.
100%. I mean, that's why I never had social media as a cop, and that's why I never even had a parking plaque. I didn't want to deal with any of the nonsense that came along with it. I was just like, you know what? Take the feather out of your hat. I never wanted to get arrested for drunk driving. So you know what I did? I never drove if I drank. Take the feather out of the hat. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. Just be solid in your stances. I mean, it stinks. We say it often, like, cops really don't have First Amendment rights. You do. But if you use them, I mean, you might have a big problem, so and that's why this platform is often referred to as the voice for the voiceless, because they really do have you're going to be retaliated against. Pat Donahue says social media blocking is the modern day version of taking your basketball and going home when you aren't picked to play. Reveals a lack of self-confidence and maturity. I agree 100%, man. I mean, like, if you guys go on social media, I mean, we get it every day, dude. I've never blocked one person on social media. To me, I'm just like, you know what? I'm out here. I'm expressing my ideas. It is what it is. I got to be open to the criticism. I have to be open to the memes. I have to be open to anything that comes out about me, right? You can capture me like this, take a snapshot of me. Oh, look, he's sleeping on the podcast. Whatever it is, like, again, with great power comes great responsibility, right? And that's what you have as an elected official. That's what you have when you're a deputy mayor. That's what you have when you're a congressman. That's what you have when you're a mayor. I mean, criticism cannot be blocked at all. There's a couple of cases. There's 2 cases that went to Supreme Court that have ratified that: O'Connor Ratliff versus Garnier, and Linked versus Freed. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the 6th was Linked versus Creed, and Ratcliffe versus Garnier was U.S. Court of Appeals for the 9th. Right. So those 2 court cases uphold that, as well as, I don't know if you guys remember when Donald Trump was the president, he blocked people and he had to undo that. So the Supreme Court said, no, you can't block people as the president of the United States. And you can't block people as an appointed official either. You can't block people as a public servant. And it's rightfully so. Like if we care about the First Amendment, if we care about our constitutional rights, I mean, we will exercise them. You know, I think if you guys ever watched the episode that we did with Mighty Fuzz Young, good friend of ours, Craig, Mighty Fuzz Young podcast, we did a podcast with him, and he said, freedom's like a muscle. You work it out, the muscle grows. You don't work it out, it grows atrophy and it shrivels and dies. And it's the same thing with our constitutional rights, right? So we've been exercising our First Amendment right. We've been exercising that muscle of freedom. And what have we seen through that time? It's grown, right? It's grown. You've seen how little it was there at the inception of this platform and how much the freedom has grown and the leeway has grown for now we're able to voice our opinions. So freedom must be exercised. If you only want 1% of the population that's able to bench 225, then don't exercise it. If you want more of that that's able to speak, then all of us have to get out there and do it. So I think it's an important tool. I think it's very important that we protect our freedoms, because if we don't, surely they will be taken from us.
Well, I think it's important to highlight that this is far more serious than it may seem on the surface, because I think social media doesn't give the same appearance as an actual physical form, which I was alluding to earlier, right? If an actual physical form, it's something tangible. You can see it, right? Where there's a room of people, there's actual public officials, and you can see the actual encounter. So with social media, we don't see it. And I don't think that these public officials, especially Kaz Daughtry, actually realize how much authority they have and what is going on social media, that you actually have a platform. You actually have a dais on that social media platform, and those discussions in that platform is your audience present at a physical forum. And I don't think they really understand that, and they haven't been accountable. But it just shows you. I mean, we did a prior episode where we spoke about Kaz Daughtry and Kaz Daughtry's position as deputy mayor. And what did Kaz Daughtry say? Kaz Daughtry said, "Look at my record. Go back. I get stuff done." That's not an original thought. That's something you got from your mentor, Eric Adams. That's not original thought. It's put yourself in a soapbox. I would have loved to hear him say, you know what? The people I've been surrounded by have helped me get to this position. I've been blessed. I've been blessed by people that elevated me. I've been fortunate enough to get on the police department, and Jeffrey Mandry took me under his wing. And I've been blessed, and I have extreme gratitude. But instead, he made it appear as he was some type of crusader that did it all on his own. It's just a solo crusader that just rose through the police department with something so special, a phenomenon they never seen before, and they had to elevate him to deputy mayor of public safety. But this is who this person is on social media or in any type of forum. Obviously, Kaz Daughtry does not have the maturity, or does he have the actual emotional intelligence to actually understand the veracity and the ability and the authority that he has in this position? And if he does, well, it's completely misused. I mean, I just think that he's in a position of power. He can't handle it. His ego is very weak. There's no doubt about it. He suffers from insecurities. He suffers from insecurities because he can't admit that he's been blessed to be in this position where others have not had the same opportunity and afforded that opportunity. I mean, he's still employed. He should have been terminated from the police department. He admitted to lying. His credibility is completely gone, but yet we're supposed to believe he has credibility now as deputy mayor of public safety.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, I think the fact that we see them go on podcasts that have like 3 views or 10 views or 20 views, And I'm not knocking them for doing that because I'll go on anybody's platform. I don't care. So will you. We go on platforms that have millions of views. We go on platforms that don't have any views. I mean, if I'm open to have a discussion. If it's a discussion I'm interested in, I don't care who watches it. I don't care if it's just me and you have the discussion in a private room. Like it doesn't matter to me. So I applaud them for doing that, but you don't go on the platform that all your members watch. And it just shows how thin-skinned they are. Like it is, says New York City Council member Justin Brannon blocked me, never threatened him. I did call him a clown, yes, but he is unqualified to be New York City controller. And you have every damn right to say that. You have every right to say that. And again, you should do exactly what I'm doing is you should call DOI. You should file a complaint through New York City Council. You should file an ethics complaint against him because it's wrong. Ron Layson, former inspector for the NYPD, co-host of the Executive Perspective on the Finest Unfiltered, says, when I was the commanding officer of the 100th precinct, I had a placard monitor blasting my account with dozens of posts a day. I blocked him and was immediately notified by DCPI to unblock him and just ignore him. And I think DCPI was right. I side with DCPI. I side on the stand of First Amendment speech. But here, this is like a real unique position because, again, we didn't even comment to him. We didn't even say anything to him. We didn't repost him, right? I mean, if we made fun of you at all, that photo came through one of your members, more than likely, or another retired member sent us something. What do you think about, before we get off of this topic, because I think what we're saying is right, like we have to hold these people accountable. If your elected officials blocking you or public officials blocking you, file a complaint, seek legal action. They're not allowed to do it. This is America. We believe in First Amendment rights. Before we get off of Kaz Daughtry and the rest of these losers that have thin skin, have no business being public officials or elected officials, what do you think? So now he's, every day we see a new piece of highly embroidered clothing from Kaz Daughtry. Now he has a deputy mayor shield. I don't know if it's 5 stars or 6 stars. I know commissioner's 5 stars. That I know. A commissioner, so you're a police commissioner, you're 5 stars, right? You're 1 star above Shell. What do you think about him wearing this new deputy mayor jacket and pullovers and shirts and vests and all this stuff, but it has NYPD patches on it?
I'm so glad you mentioned that. Actually, I wanted to speak on that. I think it's absolutely insane. I think that he still has to separate himself from the police department. He's now the deputy mayor of public safety. He's supposed to coordinate all agencies, and it's actually supposed to coordinate all agencies except for the NYPD. The NYPD is supposed to be run by the police commissioner, separate from the deputy mayor of public safety. His coordination is supposed to be the other agencies of New York City. But again, it just shows he hasn't separated himself from the police department. And to me, it's other validation and proof that Kaz Daughtry is actually still running the police department. We've said early on, I've actually, myself, I've always had my finger on it, saying that Kaz Daughtry is the actual police commissioner for the NYPD under the thumb of Eric Adams. And I believe that still remains the same. Jessica Tisch has put on a mirage and an illusion for us to believe she's the actual police commissioner. But I still believe, and that to me validates and just solidifies that Kaz Daughtry is still, in fact, heavily connected with the NYPD, and he's the new Phil Banks. He's in charge of the NYPD as we speak.
Absolutely. Rob, feel better, brother. Rob Lukash is he's still a little bit under the weather. I think he says he feels better, but he totally doesn't have a voice. So he may or may not be on with Rob with Ron on Wednesday.
Rough week. Rob, feel better. We know it's been a rough week for you, but get some rest. Your voice will come back. We miss you, brother.
Absolutely. And he says, at Eric, Joe Fox is no leader, just a sweet talker. And Pat Donahue follows up with Rob Lukash for New York City Controller, a proven track record of being fiscally responsible. No cash, Lukash. So if you don't know who you want for New York City Controller, write in Rob Lukash. Funny stuff.
Where's that Midol?
Get the Midol. That's it. So yeah, Kaz is gonna need. So yeah. So another thing, you got to take a look. Somebody on here had sent me a photo of Kaz Daughtry. And I was like, I bolded like from the back and around, and like I got like the St. Anthony, right? So that's how I bolded. But Kaz Daughtry's bolding the weirdest I've ever seen in my life. I don't have the photo of it like readily available. But if you look at how he's bolding, he has like a straight line through the middle of his head, and then he just has hair, and he fades the sides of it. And so he has a missing, so I call it the reverse mohawk, because he's missing hair all here, and then he has hair everywhere else, and he fades it. So Kaz, that's your new hairstyle, the reverse mohawk. I suggest you talk to Frank Carone and Eric Adams. Hook up that first class trip to Turkey. Now that Trump's okay with it, get yourself some. Take care of that reverse mohawk.
Hey.
Bro.
You better get out to Turkey. You get new teeth if you want to. Now, excuse me. Do you think when it comes to public officials like Kaz Daughtry, since we're talking about this right now, do you think that they should have a personal account separate from their actual government account? And it should be maybe some type of disclosure, like this is a personal account. It will not have any affiliation. Or do you think it doesn't matter? Because like I said earlier, I just think it's very tough to separate yourself from that position. If you're so high level in government and so high profile, you are going to be a known figure. Kaz Daughtry obviously does a lot of media appearances. So, as far as on the local level in New York City, I'm sure most of those social media followers are from New York City. So do you think that those accounts should have some type of disclosure? Or do you think that it's just kind of like inferred?
So, I mean, it's weird, right? Like you see all these like social media influencers and podcasters in the Trump administration, right? And they're actually like kind of deactivated their accounts in a way. Like they're really not posting to the accounts that they used prior. You could take Dan Bongino, for example. You could take Pam Bondi. There's a lot of different people in the organization. Pete Hegseth. They have separate government accounts. Elon Musk. They have separate government accounts. So I don't think they block anybody though. So, I don't think they block anyone because like us, they get a lot of hate, So do I think they should? I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think the way that Kaz did it's a lot different because again, he did not build that profile himself. Like your social media account you built, my social media account I built, my social media platform I built, you built yours. He did not make those posts. He did not write those posts. Somebody wrote them for us. So that's government funds being used to make the post, write the post. He did not take the photos. Government funds used, government taxpayer funds used to make the photo, create the photo. Government funds used to make the video, edit the video. And then, like I said, social media consultants and social media experts to help grow that account. So it's completely different with a Kaz Daughtry now saying throwing personal on his account versus a Dan Bongino who builds his account up. And now he's like, you know what? I'm not really gonna be posting on here going forward until I'm done, until my service is done. And boom, he opens up a government account. But even if he posts on here on Dan Bongino, it doesn't matter because he's not blocking you anyway. So we're not even having the conversation. He doesn't care. Post, and that's why I always say follow the Joe Rogan rule. Post and ghost. I don't care. It doesn't. I'm not living and dying on what the clicks do or what they don't do, who likes it, who doesn't. You know what I mean? I put my thought out there. I put it out in the world. I felt I needed to put it out there in the world. I put it out there in the world. Stand behind it.
That's why it's interesting. Sometimes the podcast and some of the episodes that we do, I always say they kind of weave in and intertwine. Because easily, I think that we could have spoke about these social media accounts when we did the podcast and the episode on Doge. If we had a Doge effort for the NYPD, I think these social media accounts would fall into that. It would fall into like, wait a minute, who's paying for this Twitter account? This is a personalized account. Who's actually paying for this check mark? And why is this account monetized off the city's the taxpayers? That's a major problem. I agree 100%. Your account is monetized. That is reflective of your position as a public official or as a member of the NYPD, and that's how you built that account. And now you're getting monetized. So it's almost. like I said before, it's almost as if it's some form of off-duty appointment, but no doubt about it. It violates conflicts of interest, but it violates the law. It's a major problem how it's being used, and no one's saying anything about it. No one's that's it's really a problem that no one says anything about it. But you know what? I think fantastic episode, by the way, with Sal Greco and John Scola. And John Scola really highlighted what goes on with the NYPD. The NYPD doesn't look to clarify, it doesn't look to verify, it doesn't look to rectify, it doesn't look to vindicate anything. It just pays settlements. And ultimately, the reason is because the upper echelon is going to continue to have rules for thee and not for me. That's the bottom line. The taxpayer pays for them to have their little fun. It's like the Wild Wild West for the upper echelon right now. They do whatever they want, and whatever mistakes happen along the way, if they get caught, the city pays for it.
Yeah, so Kaz, unblock us, or we'll be generating some more content following through to the point when you actually have to unblock us. I don't know that it doesn't take the 8 months until all you guys are out of office, but if it does, it does. But we'll be documenting it, generating content off of that. So I just suggest you unblock us and become an adult. And again, we'll throw it out there. You're welcome on the podcast if you want to come on, speak about it, why you blocked us, why you didn't. More than welcome. So yeah, I think let's get off of that. I think we've done enough to expose that. So this was the title of this episode. You've been blocked. Real Kaz Daughtry, the other Kaz Daughtry, everybody's blocked you. He's blocked everybody. So another thing I think very important. So Brad Holdman Siegel and Jessica Salazar, both New York State senators, they have this great bill. This great bill that's related to public safety, right? And what is that bill? Let's see what that bill says. This bill would ban cops from performing routine traffic stops. Now, the New York Post writes in there, like the one that nabbed the famous serial killer, most dangerous ever. I don't know why we need to highlight one specific scenario where car stops have nabbed murderers. Because I think car stop is like one of the most basic tools of policing. It's like telling a carpenter, you can no longer use a Phillips head screwdriver. That's it. No more. We're taking the Phillips head screwdriver away from you. Can no longer use it. You can't use rubber mallets anymore. It's like, what? I need that every day. I use that every day. Car stop, basic level of public safety, not only for criminal behavior, but from the New York Democratic base, who does everything and anything to create more traffic, fine and tax people who drive cars, demonize and paint them under traffic violence, do anything to alleviate and produce traffic safety, yet this would create a whirlwind of public safety failures all around, and in my opinion, further emasculates the NYPD and the other surrounding agencies in New York with an inability to stop perpetrators, and another avenue for perpetrators and defense attorneys to use to sue, win money off of New York City, and discredit police officers.
This goes back to what I always say. At this point, the legislators in New York City, especially New York City Council, but when we see politics and legislators surrounding the NYPD or law enforcement in general in New York City, what do we see? We see a battle and a competition of who could strip and who could chip away at the police department more. And it's a constant basis. We see it's little by little. It's like the inch game. Every day we have a different politician or a different legislator chipping away at the police department, disarming the police department, limiting their capabilities and hindering them from doing police work. This is more defund the police action. That's exactly what this is. We've now legalized jaywalking. We're removing a gang database. We have How Many Stops Act. We have a chokehold ban. We have a diaphragm law. We have a Right to Know Act. We have Raise the Age. We have bail reform. We have this bill. It's just one thing after another. There's a laundry list. If we had to peel back the layers right now from what the legislators and the politicians are doing to the NYPD or law enforcement in general, it would take us a long time. And this is not something that's happened quickly. This has happened years. It's every day, just a little bit more, chipping away since former Mayor Bill de Blasio, continuing it with Mayor Eric Adams. We see in city local government in New York City just chipping away at the police department. And this is another bill that's going to hinder the police department. And if this bill actually passes, which I don't think it will, if it does, I mean, this is complete doomsday. But if this bill passes, it strips away an intrusive police work, which is the foundation to public safety. Eric Adams talks about public safety. There would be no need for khaki pants or Q teams or any of these teams doing intrusive police work if you remove car stops. Car stops are the bread and butter to illegal activity in New York City, especially the transportation of large amounts of narcotics, illegal firearms, transporting criminals, transporting human beings right now in human trafficking. And we're going to remove the ability to have a pretextual legal justification for a stop, to have an encounter with an occupant or occupants of a car, which could lead to other crimes. This is absolutely insane. So, John, you're absolutely right. We're removing the Phillips screwdriver, removing the flathead screwdriver from you doing work out there. And we're saying, hey, get the job done, but we're going to take the tools away. No longer do you have a tool belt, but we still want you to get the job done. We still want you to get the job done. Still make sure that there's no criminals on the street. Make sure that New York City's safe, but we're not going to give you any tools. You're just going to go to work without any tools. This is insane. This is complete insanity.
Yeah, I mean, people are like, oh, it's not going to pass. I mean, maybe right now in the climate it doesn't, but the fact that anyone even had the gall to present it is another problem. I mean, the fact that they're even talking about this, because this is how things start. They're incremental, right? It starts as a bill and then you're desensitized to it. I mean, think of all of the other insane bills that passed. You can never put pressure on a resisting perpetrator's diaphragm or you're guilty of a misdemeanor. That's basically every time anyone resists arrest, you are going to, and every arrest since they have, regardless of what type of tactics they try to deploy. Everyone has put pressure on someone's diaphragm. So, I mean, these bills have passed time and time again. Legalizing urinating in the street. Why would we want to legalize urinating in the street? But we did it, right? Desensitized to it, right? It's like one thing after the other, after the other. And the fact that senators, elected state senators, Brad Holyman Siegel, who I believe, if I look it up, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I remember posting a certain union giving him funds. Our police union, let me back that up. I'm pretty sure I remember posting that he was given unions by funds. I'm not going to call the union out because I'm not 100% which one it was, but I'm pretty sure one of them did, and I posted about it. And Julia Salazar as well. So you have put your names behind them as an NYPD union, and here, this is your payback, right? And so yesterday, unrelated, I had put out something about Cuomo and Adams, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but someone had commented to me and said, I want to hone in on, it was something about the failures of bail reform and how they both supported it, and it was something along those lines. And the person stated to me that they wanted to hone in on the policy, not the politician. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. We need to hone in on the politician that created the policy, that cheerleaded the policy, that put the policy into law, and not sit here and pretend like this thing has always been. No, this was the creation of somebody's mind, whether it was the politician that created and wrote the bill or not. More than likely it wasn't, because I don't think they're too good at writing, obviously, if they have to pay for op-eds. So it's not them that's writing this bill. Someone's coming to them with this bill like, hey, I need you to pass this bill. And here you go, Eric Adams with the pom-poms, Andrew Cuomo on the stage, pushing it through, signing it into law. People voted on it. I say the problem is not the policy. The problem is the people that created, passed it into law, and cheerleaded the policy. So no, we have to acknowledge that. And Julia Salazar, before this even gets put into place, Julia Salazar, Brad Holyman Siegel, any other co-sponsors of this bill, any person that might even say that they might vote in favor of this bill needs to be called out immediately. And then, God forbid, this bill gets put into place. God forbid this bill gets put into place. We need to remind everybody every day that, hey, this person put that into place. And so, like, I'm not buying the whole, I need to get behind Andrew Cuomo because he's going to fight against the far right and the far left. No, sorry. He has a proven track record of failure. Sorry. If far left candidate gets in, guess what? Democratic Party, put up better Democrats. Republican Party, put up better Republicans. That's all I got to tell you.
First of all, it doesn't even make any sense. I mean, can you imagine? It's like going to the dealership, you buy a car, let's say whatever brand, and you take that car home and you start driving. You're like, you know what? This car's a piece of crap. And you know what? It's just it's built terrible. The structure to the car, everything's falling apart. So we're going to look at the car, and then we're not going to blame the people that built it. We're not going to blame the company that built that car. And the same thing goes for politics. We're not going to blame the politicians that administered and implemented ideology behind these bills. They built it. It's not something tangible like a car, but it's something that we could feel. It's something that we're affected by. So we're not going to look at the people that administered. It's almost like saying, well, you know what? The 50A for the cops has been a major problem. It's created a hurdle. Cops are being harassed because of the 50A. If anybody, if you're not NYPD, 50A is public record of a police officer, civilian complaint record, disciplinary record. It's open to the public. So when it comes to 50A, we're not going to blame Cuomo for repealing and creating legislation for the 50A. We're not going to blame Cuomo that cops are in a position right now where they're being battered and just completely belittled, that cops are timid to do their job, that they're attacked by agitators because of the 50A, and that it's actually leading to potential corruption because they can hold cops hostage with their 50A, with their public record. Let's not blame Cuomo. So who should we blame?
That's crazy. Bob Holden comments on the bill. He says, this bill is insanity on steroids. Only in New York would someone seriously propose banning cops from stopping drivers for broken lights, expired plates, or tinted windows, violations that often leads to the arrest of dangerous criminals. Joel Rifkin was caught during a routine car stop. The son of Sam was traced because of a parking ticket. These minor infractions have taken serial killers, gang members, and illegal guns off of our streets. I'm just going to double down on that and said that occurs every day on the streets of New York City and across this nation. Criminals do not follow traffic laws. They speed, they drive unregistered, uninsured cars, they break the rules, they take away one of the most basic, effective enforcement tools is reckless and dangerous. And calling it racist to enforce traffic laws, that's not just absurd, it's offensive. Manhattan needs to stop electing lunatics. They should be in an insane asylum, not in a state legislature. She is
hands down, outstanding, Bob Holden. Honestly, that's the best piece I've heard in a while by someone that has an ability to actually hold these people accountable. Someone that's actually serving the public. That's outstanding. That's exactly what it is. Just total lunacy. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, what these politicians indicate to the public is, well, yeah, we want it to be safe. We want the cops to solve crimes, but we just want to take away all their ability to actually all the tools. We'll take away just the fundamentals of policing. So this isn't safe. He's right.
Can I give you the rationale? Let me give you the rationale for why I'm going to tell you why we need this bill. All right, because you're a blonde-haired, blue-eyed racist. All right, you've been out there on the streets, doing horrible things your whole life, and you don't understand this. So let me break it down for you. Let me break it. This is the basis for every bill.
Please do, because I need that.
This is the basis for every bill, by the way, going forward. White drivers, on average, receive 1.3 tickets per stop compared to 2 tickets for black drivers and 2.1 for Latino drivers. So black and brown people are disproportionately given tickets proposed to white people. So we need to get rid of car stops.
You know what's interesting, right? It's almost, and that's another thing. We didn't say it earlier. Almost every bill or proposal that comes out of city council or state legislators when it comes to New York state law is for the most part overwhelming majority is based on racism. Can you think of a bill that's not based on racism? The How Many Stops Act, that's based on racism. The gang database, the argument has been racial profiling. The Right to Know Act is based on racism. This proposal is based on racism. So can we think of anything that's not based on racism? If you ask me, this is all based on a feeling. You feel that blacks are ticketed more often than whites based on this data. Where is this data from? And does it reflect the crime trends in a particular area? Again, I think these analytics are just something that can't even be looked at. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is insane.
This has been the basis for the last 8 years of passing legislation in city council and the state assembly and the state senate. This has been the basis of every piece of. I hate calling it public safety because it's not a public safety bill. This is the opposite of public safety. The pro crime. Maybe we'll call it that, pro crime. Because I mean, this was the basis for people not getting urinating summonses, defecating in the street. This was the basis for getting rid of the gang database. This is the basis for not arresting people on the street for marijuana use. This is the basis for not giving people criminal court summonses for drinking. This is literally the basis of every bill. Black and brown people get issued at a disproportionate rate. It doesn't matter that black and brown people commit the offenses at a higher rate. It just matters. It doesn't matter that the neighborhood is all black and brown people, and there's no white people to even give summonses to. It doesn't matter because you just use this metric. And again, like we said when we did the episode on the gang database, this is also true for rape, robbery, and murder. Are we going to legalize those? Are we going to stop locking people up because black and brown people are disproportionately arrested and charged and prosecuted for murder? Are we going to do that? And if not, why not? Because that's the basis of every other bill you passed. So that, it makes literally zero sense. We got 600 people on here this morning. Thank you for joining. Do us a favor, like, share, subscribe, share this space out. We just talked about if public officials can block you on social media. So go back and watch that on YouTube at the Finest Unfiltered. You could go back and watch that whole segment, and absolutely no, they cannot block you on social media. And now we're speaking about New York State Senate seeking to push a bill to ban police officers from car stops, not allow them from doing car stops for minor infractions. But we could get them for major ones, like after they murder somebody, after they run you over. We can't get them for being unregistered, uninsured, or tanks, tail light. You can't stop. We can't have. We could allow unsafe vehicles to travel on the roads, basically.
You know what's interesting to me? These liberal Democrats that administer and propose these lunatic ideas for policing, they're the most racist, anti-black, and anti-Hispanic people themselves. Because for the most part, I would say these liberal Democrats, they advocate for racial profiling. They advocate that black and brown are getting summoned and arrested more than whites. But yet, these are the first people to call the police if they're living in their home and if they saw a car drive by their house occupied by 4 black males. If that car just happened to slow down, maybe there's a stop sign, but they don't realize it. Maybe they slow down and they're in front of their house. They're the first ones to call the police that 4 black guys are in a car in front of their house. They're the most racist. That's the crazy thing. And I realize by this, it's not defund the police. It's defund the police in black and brown neighborhoods, because they have no problem with saying that we want more of a police presence. We don't care about what goes on in the white neighborhoods. It's all about black and brown. But to the people that live in these black and brown neighborhoods that are affected by this small level of perpetrators, these predicate felons in these neighborhoods, are affected by this legislation. These people that don't have a say, we need to get the information out to them. They're the ones that need to vote. People that are affected by these crazy liberal policies that affect good people that live in areas that have a high propensity for violence. I'm sure if we went door to door talking to people in the South Bronx and how do you feel that the cops can't do routine traffic stops in your neighborhood to stop shootings and robberies and stop some of these gangs that are in your neighborhood, taking away the gang database? I'm sure the results would yield quite different from what these liberals want. I'm sure the good people that live in these neighborhoods would not like these bills at all. And for the majority of the people that live in the South Bronx or any poor neighborhood, and the South Bronx is the poorest congressional district in the country, most of the people there are good people. It's a small element that are have a high propensity for violence, but that's who they're advocating for. That's who these legislators are advocating for that small group. And yet that small group weighs heavily on these neighborhoods. So it's not necessarily defund the police. It's defund the police in black and brown neighborhoods.
I see. I think it's emasculate the police. Let's get rid of the police. Let's create this community safety, whatever the name of that organization was, that Zohan, the agency that Zohan Mamdani wants to create.
Department of Public Safety.
Oh, Department of Community Safety, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Department of Community Safety. That's what it is. Rob Lukash says it here. The city that boasts the greatest diversity, black and brown people, make up 48.5% of the city. Whites, 31.3%. As there are more black and brown, then should we get rid of all the laws because they're going to be this? Obviously, like that's my argument. And if not, why not? Because that is the basis of your law now. Why is it okay to enforce that law but not this law? Why is it okay to enforce major law but not minor laws? Why not? Answer the question. You can't because it's not there. You know, KB says here, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Martin Luther King, right? But today, not only are we judged by the color of our skin, we're judged by our ethnic background, we're judged by our gender, we're judged by our sexual preference. And that is the basis of, in my opinion, the illegal anti-equal opportunity diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. And that's what's happening throughout. It's not about being equal. It's not about giving equal opportunity. It's about equity. It's about forced equality, which doesn't work, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all minorities. The individual is the minority. You take a child, 2 children, grew up in the same household, only born months apart, and the differences between them are in the thousands. You know, it's a group identifying theory. It's a tribalistic theory. It's a theory of communism and a theory to divide and conquer. It's been tested, tried, and failed over and over again. But yet here we are in New York City today trying to test it out.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I was going to say they have a term for that. I believe it's called communism. I mean, they're trying to turn New York City into North Korea. It really is. It's just, you know, I think Bob Holder's statement is spot on. It's just total lunacy. These people are insane. These liberal Democrats, in my opinion, they're racist, legitimately racist towards black and brown people. They're trying to put them in this box and create this equality. And what they're saying is, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. So we have to propose all these bills to protect you. That's absolutely ridiculous. You know, Rob Lukash laid out the numbers perfectly, especially if we look at also, if, you know, as Jessica Tish would say, if we look at New York City, not by areas, but by zones. So if we looked at the South Bronx, we just said, hey, let's look at the South Bronx. Let's look at the zone. The South Bronx is 99% black and brown. So what you're saying is that the 99% of people that live there don't deserve police services. They don't deserve public safety. They don't deserve for the NYPD to have a gang database to monitor public threats to that community. They don't deserve to have the police department stop vehicles in the area that could be transporting guns, could be transporting narcotics, could be committing crimes in that neighborhood. They don't deserve that. This is the most racist ideology. And again, these people are just completely insane. We have to stop voting maniacs into power. Stop voting maniacs that are supposed to serve the public, but instead they serve this crazy ideology that just doesn't make any sense. And it's all based on emotion. And this is not the end. And John, you're absolutely right. I agree with you. This bill, in fact, I don't think this bill will pass. But what it does, it starts to infect minds. And that's what this does. It's almost like they put out feelers. Let's put out this maniac, this crazy, and maybe they know it's not going to pass. Let's put out this crazy bill and just see how people react from it. And then from there, we can start picking at it. And that's probably how they substantiate and put out these other proposals, because some of the proposals they put are so crazy that if they come out with something else, people might say, it's not as bad as what they wanted before, and start to split hairs because it just doesn't make any sense. But again, it's the inch game. Every day, it's just a little bit more that they chip away at law enforcement, especially the NYPD in New York City, and just making it a place that's uninhabitable. And right now, if you're in New York City, you have to say to yourself, man, I'm living in a prison here. This is just insane. If other than living in New York City and you're there because of economics, I can't think of another reason to stay in New York City. It just doesn't seem as a viable place to live anymore.
Eric donates $4.99 to the podcast. He says, watch, New York is going to turn in the movie The Purge with all the laws getting changed. LOL. Joking. I mean, are you? I mean, I don't know. I mean, if we're gonna use that basis of theory to eliminate law, it is going to turn into The Purge.
Absolutely.
Actually, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not 2 years from now, but I mean, if that theory holds up, and that's good, we're going to get rid of law because people that are black and brown skin color are disproportionately issued summonses for it, even though they represent the majority of New Yorkers. I mean, are we not? We're basically eliminating law enforcement and we're empowering criminals. Why wouldn't we turn it to The Purge? I don't see any way we don't. You know, to me, I don't know. I don't know where we're headed as a society. I personally think the bill, if you watch what they've been doing these last 8 years, is they introduce the bill, it makes a little bit of headlines, then you never hear about it again. Your local senator, your local assemblyman will never bring it up again. When it's not an election year, the bill passes. Next thing you know, operation order comes out from the NYPD and says you will no longer perform car stops for things such as tinted windows or anything else. I like I said, I don't think it'll pass this go around. A lot of elections coming up this year. A lot of particularly public safety is a hot topic, but people have 2-week memories. The newspapers report on what they're told. And the politicians do what they're told. Again, I don't believe that Jessica Salazar wrote this bill. I don't believe that Brad Holyman Siegel wrote this bill. I believe that there was an advocacy group that donates money to their campaign, that lobby in them to fund bills, to push bills like this. You know, and that's why I'm a big fan of, and if anybody wants to do this, I'd love to create a website where you could just put in a person's name and it basically a politician, and you could see the logos next to them. Who sponsors them? What CEOs gave them donations? What not-for-profits gave them money? So you could see who they really work for, because it ain't for the voters.
I must say I like it. I think it's a great idea. Just we talk about transparency for police department. There should be transparency for legislators and politicians. There should be transparency to know who endorses them and who they support as well. Absolutely. That'd be something good to know if you're a voter out there and you say, wait a minute, I see these companies that endorse them. Maybe it's something that is polarizing to you or something that's in opposition or something that you don't fall in line to. And you can look into and say, okay, let me see the companies that support them. These are companies I don't support, so maybe I don't want to stick by this politician. That would definitely be more fruitful and give you viable information. I think it's a great idea. John, I think you're onto something. But you could call it 50B. I don't know. But it makes sense. It would be nice to know that. What's that?
They'd be more scared to take money from people.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say. Right? Well, actually,
they'd be less controlled. We'd be doing them a favor. Honestly, they'd be less controlled. We'd be doing them a favor.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Because if someone is saying, hey, I support defund the police, I support reshaping the police, but yet you're taking money from one of the police unions, well, it's like, well, what's going on here? What do you support? Really, what you support is the ultimate green dollar. That's what they support. And that's really what the problem is. But again, are you surprised by New York City, New York State local government politics? I'm not. It's just if we look at it, this is in the making for years. These policies that have chipped away at the police department just keep hindering the cops from doing their job. And the cops are put in a terrible position. Honestly, it's just at no point is this getting any better for the police department. There's no leadership right now. And what it does, it gives it more teeth and more power for an independent organization, just as a civilian complaint review board. Because what the civilian complaint review board is getting, the information that they're getting from legislators and politicians, is that the police operate with racial profiling in a biased manner. And when we have a civilian complaint review board that is comprised of people that have just a complete disdain for law enforcement, especially with the NYPD, it just gives them more power, and it gives them more of a sword to just cut away at the police department. So again, all these organizations, the conglomerate of them together, are the baseline for defunding the police. Yeah, we hear fancy words from Mayor Eric Adams as far as reshaping the police and reforms, but the bottom line is it's defunding the police, and they're trying to completely remove the police department. So it's defunding the police, it's emasculating the police, as you say. It's every capability possible to just completely tear down the entire profession. I mean, Mamdani has said his whole platform is taken away from the police department and create this Department of Community Safety. And that's what it's going to. I think the ultimate goal is to have it run by AI, have it run by community leaders, and have no police department at all. If eventually, if we don't vote in the right manner, and we still suffer from voter apathy, this may actually happen.
Listen, I think at the end of the day, I think policing's always evolving. You know, I think that we need to evolve consistently. And Need says this. He says, policing hasn't kept pace with the evolution of the world, driven by innovation. I highly don't agree with you at all, but okay. We need someone who can transform policing as we know it. I don't think that it's someone to transform policing. I think that the solutions to things are easy. I think the people that come up with the solutions are very complicated. I think, you know, I'm not totally against Mamdani's plan for this community. What was it? Community safety organization? What did we say it was?
Department of Community Safety, something like that.
Department of Community Safety. I'm not like totally against what he's saying, but I'm like, we had that unit. It's called the Homeless Outreach Unit, where the police stood in the background for security, and we went out to homeless and mentally ill on New York City streets with social workers, with other agencies that were better at dealing with homeless and mentally ill people on the streets, and we offered them services. And it was like as a last resort, the police were there, one, for the safety of the other agencies, and two, if laws did need to be enforced and there was refusal to comply with those laws. So, and that's what the basis of this Department of Community Safety is, except it's $1 billion. $600 million is going to come out of the NYPD budget, defund the police. Sounds like it. $400 million will come from other funds. And I don't believe that's enough money for the size of the agency that you need. I think we already have the agency that deals with mental illness and homelessness. They're called the NYPD. Now, maybe we hire some more social workers and we revamp and we recreate a Department of the Homeless Outreach Unit. Maybe we make a Homeless Outreach Bureau, mentally ill and bureau, and we create this whole other bureau. And they're the people who deal with these 311 calls, these community complaints when it relates to homeless and mentally ill. They respond to the EDP jobs. Maybe you create a whole bureau around it. I think policing is going to constantly evolve and should constantly get better. You know, I think when we look back at Stop, Question, and Frisk, was it a horrible practice? No. Was it used improperly? Yes. Was it constitutional? Yes. Should we have pulled that system down? No. When you look at bail reform, right? Should someone sit in jail because they don't have enough money to pay the fine for a minor crime? No, they shouldn't. But we shouldn't have pulled down that whole system where we're letting repeat offenders who are out on New York City streets, shooting people multiple times, continuously getting out while they're awaiting trials that never happened. So I think it's a lot. I think policing needs to return to common sense. And yes, the community needs to have a voice.
So I think the problem is this, right? So yes, policing is forever evolving, and it's always interchangeable, and it has to be. It changes with the times, it changes with the climate, it changes with people. But what we see from these politicians and these legislators, and the issue I have with Mamdani when it comes to this Department of Community Safety, It's not the ideology behind it, right? The ideology behind it is to create public safety, but it's through different means. And the means that what Mondani is saying, and by other politicians, and what I've read and what I see, is it's by removing the police. So it's not just defunding the police; it's removing the police and going to a different ideology. Because what they're saying is what they really want is they want community safety, but they want it without I guess you could say without personnel or an environment where there's arrest powers, right? And that's really what this comes down to. They want people that do not have the ability to make arrests. They want people that do not have a uniform and people that carry a gun to actually administer public safety. And that's the reality. It's the man with the gun, and it's the arrest powers that actually are the fundamental baseline that keeps a community safe. That's the adverse consequence for a predicate felon, for a perpetrator, knowing that if I commit a crime, or if I have an interaction with a police officer and I'm about to commit a crime, then I may end up in handcuffs, that I'm going to face that man or woman with a firearm. So what they're saying is they want this community safety, but they want, John, as you would always say, Care Bears. They want all these beautiful people and everything to be so nice and soft, and that's just not the reality. They have, yes, it can be supplemental. I think the community should be involved. It's very important, right? If you're in a neighborhood, if they have neighborhood watch and things like that. I think there is a purpose for that, but it's supplemental to the police department. It's assisting the police department. It's helping the police department. But ultimately, the police department is supposed to be the umbrella for law enforcement and public safety. And that's where I find the problem is they're not just trying to supplement and assist the police department. They want to remove themselves completely and just eradicate the police department. And no matter what, as time evolves, I don't think you'll ever get to a point that we need to remove the police department. If you look at the 60s into the 70s, the 80s, and here we are, how time has evolved, the role of a police officer does change, and the tools that they need do change over time to do their job. If you look at John Smith, rhetorically speaking, in the 1960s, who didn't even have a vest and didn't even have a radio, just had a gun and handcuffs. If you look at the 70s, that same police officer had a gun, handcuffs, and a radio. And then you look at the 80s, now we had a vest. And you look now we have body cameras and different items. As the world changes, we evolve into the technological era. But what doesn't change is police officers still carry handcuffs. The same handcuffs that John Smith had in the 1960s are the same handcuffs that police officers carry now. And that's the fundamental to policing and keeping people safe, is by having that fear. Yes, and some people say you shouldn't be fear police. You have to have some fear of the police and some fear of parents or some fear of authority to maintain discipline and to create safety. And if you don't have fear of an arrest, then it's never going to work.
Simply E says all these mayoral candidates should be asked if they will forego an NYP detail upon taking office. I don't think that's going to work, because we saw Eric Adams said that if the city was safe, the mayor wouldn't have a security detail. And as mayor, he would not have a security detail. And as it stands, he has the largest security detail in New York City mayoral history. So, and now not only does he have a detail, his cops have details. What the hell does a chief of department or a deputy mayor of public safety need security details for? They don't, but they have them.
And the former commissioner's brother had a detail.
Oh, and the police commissioner's brother had a detail. Brother. Family and friends discount. Family and friends leasing program. Last thing, I've been hearing a lot of cops say, who cares? We won't do car stops anymore. I must have got it since I posted that article dozens and dozens of times. I must have got that same response. Who cares? I won't do car stops. Who cares? I won't do star stop. Do nothing. Do nothing. Do nothing. And every time I see it, the same thing pops in my head. Spider-Man, where the guy comes like running past him on the train. He robs someone. He could have stopped the guy and he doesn't. And the guy goes down the block and he kills his uncle. And I'm like, that's essentially what you're saying. Who cares? I won't stop any cars. Great power comes great responsibility. No, it's not who cares. You should care. You absolutely should care, because it could be your wife's life, could be your child's life, could be your loved one's life, could be your friend's life, could be your life. You absolutely should care that as a society, our politicians are doing and saying and passing the right things. You should absolutely care. So when I hear that, I'm like, this is why nobody cares about you. This is why your profession has been treated like garbage. This is why every contract, they take things away from you. You gain nothing. You fund your own raises without realizing you gave away your retirement. And this is why. It's because of that mentality. Who cares? You should. At least you should.
I mean, this is insane. John, just look back and think about your career. Anyone here is active or retired, NYPD or an outside agency in this country, just think back at some car stops that you actually had that you thought, especially, for someone who's a summons police officer, if you're a summons guy within the NYPD or another agency, maybe you guys could speak to this. I was never a summons guy, but I'm sure there's plenty of interactions. I've had them where it was a low-level car stop and you thought, well, maybe it's just, someone failed to make a proper turn or whatever the case is, whatever. They didn't put their signal and you had an interaction and it led to something bigger. Maybe you found an illegal firearm in that car. Or maybe, you know what? As soon as you got to the car, you noticed there were some robbery suspects in that car. But without these vehicle stops, we lose those encounters. These legal justifications, these pretextual stops, these illegal justifications that can lead to bigger crimes. Excuse me, which is ultimately the foundation for intrusive police work. Intrusive police work is what keeps the public safe. And car stops are a fundamental tool to intrusive police work. So removing that, it's a major problem. I mean, we're stripping away, chipping away little by little. But when we talk about car stops, that's everyday policing. They want to highlight the Son of Sam and these other high-profile, insane characters. I understand that. But as you said earlier, John, and I must agree, every day there are thousands of car stops that are conducted where police officers unfold and unravel necessary information, and it stops other crimes. Not only that, if you're a violent perpetrator in a particular area, and if you see there are police officers engaging in car stops, and that's your mode of transportation, you know what? You're going to say to yourself, I'm not driving through that area today because I may be stopped as well. That's again, it's that fear of being caught. Earlier, what I said is that fear of being arrested is the fundamentals to policing. It doesn't matter what era we are, if it's 1960 or 2025, that fear of being arrested and handcuffed still remains the same. And that's the backbone to policing. That's the backbone and fundamentals to public safety. And that's what these politicians and legislators are trying to remove, that ability for police officers to make arrests. So when they say defund the police, that's what I'm saying. They want people that do not have arrest powers to address public safety. It just doesn't work.
Stay Trained Up says, I'm in the traffic unit with my agency. My team has caught hundreds of felons due to a simple traffic infractions. I mean, and I think that's the basis of the foundation of law enforcement throughout this country. I mean, this is a vital tool. This is basically like telling a cop, you can no longer handcuff criminals. You can no longer handcuff criminals. I don't. This is a more along the lines of we need guardians. We need guardians. We don't need warriors. This is that same mentality that's happening, and it's working. I mean, it's working wonders. The defund the police movement has worked wonders. They should have called it what it really is which is the emasculate the police department, because that's what it is. It's emasculate the police, not defund. Because like we've seen what Eric Adams did, he drastically lowered the numbers in the NYPD while blowing out the budget because him and his friends are a bunch of crumbs and street thugs that incompetent and they don't know what the hell they're doing. So I think when you look at the defund, that was really a poor term for it. It should have been emasculate the police, and that's what's happening here. Chief Rob Lukash stopped a taxi for a headlight. The two passengers both had guns. Felt bad, gave the driver a summons because I said the DA won't believe me. He was good about it. You may have saved my life. So right there, stopped a taxi for a headlight. got 2 gun collars off the perpetrators, still had to give the taxi driver the summons because the DA wouldn't believe him, which is the truth. You had no choice. That was the basis of the stop, right? You can't, and that's it. That's constitutional policing. So, but you did save his life, because more than likely that guy was getting jacked, and who knows, they might have offed him. And so this whole, we don't want the cops doing anything. And Eric always talks about like the difference between a security guard and the difference between a police officer. Police officers are intrusive, security guards observe and report. And what they're actually doing now across this country is they're turning law enforcement, they're emasculating it and turning them into guardians, aka security guards.
Spot
No
on, brother.
authority to stop, no authority to detain, no authority to do this. These are guardians. Listen to Jessica Tisch when she says it. She doesn't even know what she's saying. Now, all of a sudden, she's a moderate crime fighter, yet a big supporter of Bill de Blasio and Eric Adams. I don't know. It's like an oxymoron to me.
You know what? Shout out to Rob Lukash, though. I tell you what, Rob Lukash, and I hope you feel better. But the fact that you lost your voice, it's really heightened your senses. You got some great comments today. So, you know what? It's definitely working for you. But that's a hell of a story. It's so true. Look, what we consider something that's minutiae or minuscule for a car stop, or some people love to use the word routine. I hate when they say routine car stops, but that led to getting violent perpetrators. And that summons, you know what? Hey, listen. It was necessary, and I'm sure that driver appreciated. You may have saved his life. There's no doubt about it. So if he had to pay $50 or whatever the case is, I think it's a good memory. That's a summons that he could actually live with. But again, it's a car stop that led to getting predicate felons, those violent perpetrators off the street. It's anything. I mean, what if you have you work in a particular area and you have some robbery suspects and you have a description of a vehicle, and car stops, they really are the bread and butter of policing, even in New York City, where the modes of transportation are not just reliable on car stops, but it's the bread and butter. It's easy to conceal stuff in a trunk. It's easy to conceal stuff in a glove compartment. The car is, and not only that, what they're also removing is the ability for police to do their job intrusively in an expeditious manner, right? Because according to the court system, and it makes sense, right? A car is mobile, so there's a lot more latitude when it comes to searches, the warrantless searches in a car, because it's mobile in comparison to when you deal with someone in their home, because that home is stationary, right, where you have to go out and get warrants for certain things. But because the car is mobile, there's a lot more latitude, and police officers have an ability to do more intrusive police work with a car in comparison to someone's home or business. So they're removing these tools that are so effective for police officers to keep the public safe. But again, Bob Holden said it best. It's just complete lunacy. But again, I kind of think sometimes like maybe they thought it is so crazy, they would just throw this thing at the wall and people are like, wow, this is just so crazy. And that next time when they come back with what they really propose in the real bill, they'll be like, okay, at least it wasn't as bad as this other crazy one. And that's the way I'm starting to look at this.
I don't know, man. Like I don't know. And then like I'm sitting here and I had to get these stupid composting trash cans. I'm being threatened with summonses by Eric Adams and the sanitation department for not having composting material. And I'm like, what the hell is New York City focused on? And and so like all these environmentalists, I just want to highlight one thing about New York City. So I've gotten summonses before for throwing the wrong thing in the regular trash versus recycling. So one would think that the recycling would go to a separate garbage dump and be dumped separately, right? One would think that, right? Like I thought that for years. And then I got a summons. I forget, it could have been vice versa the other way. And then one of my friends in sanitation was making fun of him, sanitation police. I was like, "Oh, you're gonna come by and write me for because I didn't realize plastic should be in this bin and not that bin, or whatever." And he's like, "Do you know that like we give these summonses out and it all goes to the same place?" I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "It goes." I'm like, "But it's separate, right?" He's like, "No." He's like, "It all gets dumped in the same pile." I was like, "Wait. I have a recycling can I have a recycling can. I recycle all my stuff. I put my garbage can, my regular garbage, I put it in there. And then you guys pick it up in separate trunks and you all dump it in the same spot. He's like, yeah. So I'm like, oh, that's nice. So now New York City says, now you have to have a composting can. So your food and all your food scraps and fruit scraps have to go in this composting can. And my question is, where's it going? Because I bet it's all going in the same pile. But you're going to give me summonses. You're going to do all this. But yeah, let's not have the cops do any traffic summonses. Let's get them out there checking people's food scraps that go nowhere and does nothing to protect and save the environment. Got it.
I'm so glad that you just brought that story up because my wife used to get so mad at me because I used to never recycle. I throw everything in the same can. You know, the recycling bin, I would throw all the garbage there too. She's like, oh, what are you doing? You're not recycling. I'm like, I'm telling you right now. Because I remember I read somewhere. I said, I'm telling you right now, this all goes to the same spot. They're not recycling. This whole recycling bin was just an idea for people to believe. It's a whole mirage to believe that they're actually recycling. So they believe that we're fighting for the environment. It's all going to the same place. So you know what? I gotta show my wife this portion. You're absolutely right, brother. That's exactly what they do. There's no recycling. It goes to the same spot. It's just a mirage. Here's your recycling bin. And people bought it. And they ate it up. I knew it was a complete lie.
A. Tolliver says there's a recycling center in Queens. He's seen it in action. I don't know, bro. I'm just telling you what these guys are telling me. I don't know. And I kind of believe it, dude. I kind of believe it. Mark the Mock wants to know how much the fine was. I don't remember, dude. Maybe it was like $50 or $65. And I think it went up. Like if I would have got another one, it would have been more money. I don't remember at all. But I just want to give everyone aware. You know who's in charge of that now, right? The illustrious Kaz Daughtry, Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, because public safety is separating your scraps from your regular garbage. That is public safety. That is the ultimate mission. Car stops don't do that. Crazy. And RH or whatever his name is, RD Hamilton or whatever he used to go by, he says that we're obsessed with emasculation. We're obsessed with masculinity. We need to stop watching Jordan Peterson and Russell Brand podcasts. I haven't listened to either in a long time, but I will say when we talk about policing, we have done a podcast in the past that law enforcement is a masculine profession. That is not saying that men can only do policing. We're saying the authority that comes from police is a masculine type of authority. And you're removing that authority from the police is the emasculation. Yes, it's true. You are also bringing alpha white males and alpha every other type of women, alpha other type of people out of law enforcement. That is true. That is happening through diversity, equity, inclusion. But that's not what we're specifically talking about when we're talking about the emasculation. We're talking about the emasculation of the authority of the police. That has nothing to do man, women, whatever you want to identify as.
Oh, absolutely. We talked about this. We did a prior episode. I think we hit the mark over 2 years ago. And we talked about masculinity. Masculinity has nothing to do with gender. Masculinity has nothing to do with sexual orientation. Masculinity is a trait. It's a characteristic of strength and ability to have grit. That's what masculinity is. Plenty of female police officers have those masculine traits. And what we're saying now is you can even see the comparison. And we said it on a prior episode. I remember when Mike Smith, retired detective, who's been on this podcast numerous times, we all said it. He and myself and you, John, we remember female police officers that we used to work with early on in our careers that had those masculine traits. We said some of those females were badasses. You know, they didn't take any shit in the street. But you look at the female police officers now, the overwhelming majority do not have those same traits. So we're not talking about man versus woman. So when they talk about this 30 for 30 propaganda, getting 30% females by 2030, they're not asking for those 30% to be the masculine trait females that we worked with. They were asking for those females to be timid, meek, and docile. That's who they're targeting. And again, I say through sexual orientation, where Tanya Meisenholder pushes this ideology, there's plenty of gay men I've worked with that had masculine traits. You know, they had characteristics. They were strong. And they had the ability to do the job. What
about the Chelsea boys? You ever run into them?
Yeah, dude.
Those dudes are all jacked, bro. I'm not messing with those dudes. Anybody don't know the Chelsea boys? They're a bunch of big, gay power lifters that they walk around there. They used to go out at nightclubs and they would hang out on the streets of, downtown Manhattan. Chelsea boys, you didn't mess with the Chelsea boys, bro. I'll tell you right now. I seen Latin Kings. I seen all of them. They didn't mess with the Chelsea boys, bro. They just kept walking.
There's a buddy of mine on the job right now. He knows who I'm talking about. He's actually a lieutenant right now. Black guy. So I won't give his name. So at least I'll just give some characteristics. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. He was a cop, and I worked on the Lower East Side of PSA 4. I was a crime sergeant there. And we covered the 10th precinct, which is Chelsea. And he was a cop, and I'll never forget, it was a domestic. And he got his ass handed to him. And I'll never forget, we went to the job to back him up. And I'll never forget, two guys came to the door that were fighting with each other. Man, they were the size of like apes. They were huge. These two guys were humongous. And they were talking like they walked on pillows, like, hey, but they were huge. They were humongous. And then we found there was piles of steroids in the apartment, but they were kicking some ass. I could have stopped it, but yeah, they worked the cops that day. So yeah, I would have messed them.
Yeah, hysterical. Yeah. KB says emasculate, verb, to deprive of strength, vigor, or spirit. Weaken. Exactly. Can't perform a car stop. Guess what that does? It deprives the police officers of strength, vigor, and spirit. It weakens them. That's the emasculation of police.
Why is excuse me. It's interesting though. Why has masculinity become this like dirty word? Like it's like a bad thing to be masculine. What is wrong with being masculine? And I think that we should have masculine traits and feminine traits. But I think when you're doing policing, you have to exploit those masculine traits. And we've talked about this. Sometimes you have to show those feminine traits, right? And what are feminine traits? Nurturing, caring, compassionate. If you're a police officer with those masculine traits, and maybe, God forbid, you're dealing with someone who lost their child, and you're consoling a parent, you're going to show those feminine traits, and that would come from a man or a woman. So I think that we should have all those traits, but the trait that should be so significant that is visible and is exploited within law enforcement should be those masculine traits. Those masculine traits are necessary to keep the public safe and to keep the police officers safe. And I believe the more masculine the police department is, the less engagement they'll have with the public in opposition to this ideology that if we remove masculinity, we'll have less engagement. We actually create a further, more dangerous environment for the public and the police officers when we have less masculinity.
I mean, I don't know. People like RH just amaze me. Like they think that like being weak is somehow a feminine trait or is not a masculine trait. It's like, no, it's just weak. Like being weak isn't a good thing. Being a weak person is not good. Even like I often go back and forth with Catholics and Christians about my religion, where the whole turn the other cheek thing. And I'm like, I think the way I interpret the Bible is a lot different than the way other people, but I don't believe that Jesus was a timid character. I don't believe he was teaching people to be timid or docile at all. And I don't believe that is the foundation of my religion either. I believe when it relates, you heard if you get slapped on the cheek, you should get how many times turn the other cheek, give them the other cheek, right? Get slapped on the other cheek. A slap is really you're not injured, right? Like that's how I was saying, a slap on the cheek. It's just like a tap. Somebody gives you a tap, they injure you, they harm you, they don't cause much injury to you. I take it more as a metaphor. Eric says something about me, makes fun of me. Let him do it again.
Guilty.
Right? Let him do it again. Who cares? What's the big deal? You don't have to respond to everything. And that's what that is to me. Now, if it turns around, I'm like, and as much as I'm a follower of Christ, now if I'm walking down the block with my children and one of them decides, I'm going to slap this guy on his face and see if he turns the other cheek, I guarantee you I have not found that fate yet. I have not went that far to be like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to turn my other cheek. Like I don't interpret the Bible in that manner at all. But you know, and I honestly think it's a complete sign of cowardice, and it would be completely awful. Imagine that you're a man, you're walking down the block with your children, and some man just comes up to you and slaps you as hard as they can in the face. Right? You turn the other cheek. Is it okay? Is it moral for you to walk away? Is it good for you? What lesson did you teach your children? Are your children safe? Is your family safe? I don't think those are good things.
Oh, not at all. I mean, I'm not a religious person. Excuse me. I talk about this all the time, though. But if you look at history and you look at religion and you look at biblical characters, they're characters of masculinity. They're characters of strength. Think about it. We talk about Jesus or Moses. We talk about some of these characters, these biblical characters. They're characters of strength. We talk about David and Goliath. We always talk about strength and masculinity. These are key elements of different religions. It's that strength. I mean, look, even in we talk about the Bible, right? What you always say, John? Cowardice is considered worse than a rapist or someone who commits robberies, right? It's because someone who's a coward is weak. And I think that when we say someone is masculine or feminine, we don't mean weak, but masculine traits are traits of strength. And as a masculine character, you should have some feminine traits. It's necessary. And, there's a time and place for those feminine traits. You have compassion for your family. I'm sure the same thing, right, John? I believe I'm a masculine character. You're a masculine character. When you're doing policing, and with our daughters, we're much different than we are in policing. We're going to show those feminine traits. When I'm with my daughter, I mean, I'm very loving. I'll be very soft and gentle. But with my daughters, much different than I would be with the public. And show those masculine traits, keep the public safe. There's a time and place for everything.
Yeah, Mikey G says if you make fun of me, you get shadow banned. That's not true, bro. What's his face was asking if I rub olive oil on my head. Put it up there. You can make fun of us all you want, You can make fun of us all you want. Listen, real quickly before we get out of here, I'm gonna pull up those. I'll pull up those two fundraisers real quick so you guys can be familiar with them. But I did watch a great series. It's ongoing. It's on Prime. David, unbelievable, man. Really, 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 really awesome, dude. Highly recommend everybody on here watch David. I think it's like 6 episodes so far. Thursday nights. Really great. Just a really great, well done show. Actually, I got up to the part where he fights Goliath, and I'm telling you, I had chills listening to it, watching it. I thought the directing, the acting, I thought it was great. Definitely check that show out, David, on Prime. Unbelievable.
Told me you don't watch TV. Every time I ask you about a show, I'm like, "Hey, John, you watch this show?" Like, "Oh, I don't watch TV." Oh, now you watch the TV?
I just started, man. I was like, what got me back into TV was The Chosen. So I started watching The Chosen with my wife. But they're like short seasons, right? So I watch TV like once a week. I watch the show once a week. But somebody had told me about David. I don't remember who, and it just hooked me. And you know what I did Saturday night, which I haven't done in a very long time. I watched the Final Four. I sat there, watched the whole thing. I can't, I sat there, watched the whole thing. Great Final Four. The games were unbelievable. I thought they were awesome games. Watching Duke lose was awesome. Watching Houston beat them, that was like a David Goliath type thing, even though they were both ones.
I love Duke.
Yeah, but they were great games, dude. It were great games. So yeah, but I traditionally don't watch TV much, but The Chosen's another great show, man. It's that's another one I highly recommend. I think a lot of things are changing, so it's good to watch. Where are those two fundraisers before we get out of here? So
yeah, I know you're not much of a TV guy, but I love TV. In fact, sometimes I'll give up sleep because I just want to watch certain shows. I don't have time during the day. But did you ever watch police TV shows? Like, what's your favorite TV police show? If you had to say,
down The Wire.
Me too. And it's funny you said. To me, The Wire is the most realistic police show. It talks about the politics. It talks about Comstat, everything. It breaks it down like the inner workings of the police department. There's even a cop in The Wire that gets fired, because a politician, wants it done. I'm like, this is real life. But yeah. So I'm glad to see you're actually watching TV though.
I don't, I just I'm just not big on it. My wife will watch like her shows. I just can't get into it, dude. I'm sorry. Like I try, I just can't do it. It's just not.
I got dragged into go. I had to watch this weekend. I went to watch. Speaking of masculinity, I was completely emasculated this weekend. I had to go watch Minecraft and Snow White.
Oh, I took my daughters to see Snow White. What did you think about it? What were we talking about? Where they said you thought it was terrible? I enjoyed it.
Terrible. Yeah. I thought they could. First of all, they never even changed her outfit the entire time. I thought they could do a better job. Like I know the Snow White. You thought it was good?
I thought it was good. I did. I didn't like. I saw why people were saying it was woke. But
it definitely was.
I mean, but again, I think there's just so much crap out there, dude. Like, I again, it's this dude's interpretation of it. It is what it is. My daughters enjoyed it. I spoke to them about the differences between the movie from that and the original cartoon and the other movies that were put out about Snow White. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was all right. I think people make too much of things. Andreas Northam says a black Snow White. She wasn't traditionally black, and yes, Snow White was named Snow White because her skin was white as snow. 100%. They changed that. They said that because she was born in a snowstorm. 100%. That was one of the things they changed.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, again, the scene where she was cleaning up the dwarves' house. The dwarves were cleaning with her instead of just her cleaning the entire house. But honestly, what else was there? It wasn't like any face too much stuff. I think that the actress's comments was stupid, but she's a 20-something-year-old kid. Talk to me when I was 23. I was an idiot,
What are we all?
Yeah. I was like, people are like, oh, she's an idiot. I got a video. I think it just came in, but I think we'll save it for the next one.
What do you got?
You want to say it? Hold on. Let me do these fundraisers real quick, and then we'll bring it up. So,
you got any Charlie on the Parkway?
I might have an ending for Charlie on the Parkway. I might have an ending. All right. So this is a fundraiser, Fund the First, for Detective David Rodriguez, member of the baseball team, beloved member of the NYPD. A lot of guys had sent this to us. We put it out on social media for you. Fortunately, tragic situation. I don't know what could be said about it. Honestly, it's absolutely horrible. So, if you guys are interested in donating to him, go to Fund the First. Go over to David Rodriguez to donate to his family. The next fundraiser that I'll bring up
Christina Hall, right?
Is Christina Hall.
Yeah.
Let me get that up on screen. Lieutenant Christina Hall. She actually came out of the academy with me. Or she might have came out with you, Eric. I'm not sure. She came out with one of us.
She looks familiar. It's terrible. She's
very familiar to me.
She's suffering from pancreatic cancer, so please help her. That's another monster cancerous disease. It's terrible. I honestly, my heart breaks for her and her family. It's terrible.
So there's a GoFundMe for Christina Hall, and there's a upcoming 1013. It reads, this comes out from the NYPD baseball. As many of you know, 13th Precinct Lieutenant Christina Hall Gilbert is currently facing an incredible tough fight against stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The cancer has already spread significantly, affecting over 50% of her liver. Now more than ever, we want to rally around Christina and her family to provide the support they need during this difficult time. A fundraiser event has been set up to help cover the medical and living expenses. All proceeds will go directly to Lieutenant Hall Gilbert and her family. Join us for a fundraiser at the Mets versus Phillies game. And in New York, we traditionally smoke Phillies. So good to get out there, right? City Field, Monday, April 21st, 7 p.m. Mets 1013 event. There's an IAB log number there. Official thing. And then I believe the tickets range between $46 and $108. And then you could get like a food package and all that. So I think it'll be a good event. I know a lot of people have reached out about it. So yeah, check it out. You know, if you could do anything to support, if you could just share it, that's great too. It's on social media. But please keep the family of both of these officers in your prayers, as well as them themselves.
Yeah, please pray for them and their families. And I can tell you this, as I'm going through it as we speak, battling cancer, please give her all the support that she can get, whatever you can give. If it's $5, if it's $100, just give something. I can tell you right now, look, you know, I got extreme amount of support. It's so overwhelming and humbling. But there were some agitators on social media that said, "Oh, you're a cop. You have insurance. You have a pension. You should be fine." Here is a lieutenant who's active with the police department, and even with that, the medical expenses that yield from cancer, from a monster disease, is just astronomical. It's scary, and you don't know it until you go through it, or you have a family member going through it. There's the red tape in this country, the insurance lapse, the issues with copays. It becomes an avalanche of expenses. It's really astronomical. And then if you seek holistic medicine or alternative medicines and stuff that's not FDA approved, as I did, you know, getting stuff from other countries, it becomes a major expense. So please help them in any way you can. I can tell you, I'm going through it myself. The expenses are scary. It's a scary thing when you're going through something like this. Just the stress and the burden of the disease itself. But then on top of that, the financial burden that you and your family take upon this is just astronomical. So please get in front of this, get behind them, and help them. We have to. Unfortunately, it's been like the red car theory for me lately. It seems that every other person I talk to has been touched by cancer, or a family member. It's just crazy. The other day, I met this awesome cop from Laguna Beach. Great sergeant. He's been nothing but so supportive of me and helped me out so much, while simultaneously his wife is going through breast cancer herself. And then he told me how she has a friend who now has breast cancer. It's mothers, sisters, kids, brothers, fathers, everyone's touched by this. Please help out. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no. Crazy 10-7 says $1.99. Says, I'm paying for no Charlie on the Parkway. I'm trying to get it up, so I was going to give it to you regardless if you wanted it or not, but I'm having a little issue with it, so we're going to skip Charlie on the Parkway today. Not because he's $1.99, all right? I'll send it back to you. It's because I can't get it up because it's on TikTok.
You're paying not to see Charlie on the Parkway?
Charlie on the Parkway needs to be seen. You know, there's not enough money in the world that could stop that from happening. So this video comes out. I don't know anything about it. Let's take a quick peek of it. Haven't watched it. Haven't read the details. Let's see. Is it up on the screen, Eric?
Yep.
All right. So it's coming out from New York Scoop. I see a female officer with an individual placed against a wall in New York City Transit. Looks like Grand Central to me, if I had to take a guess. I think that's what I'm seeing. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing in the background over there. Looks like Grand Central, pinned up against the wall. Don't know what it's over. Don't know what it's about. Here we go.
Like that?
All right. So it's two female cops on a female. Female's up against the wall. They appear to be looking to arrest her.
Can't fuck with her. I 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 can't fuck with her. Get her. Yeah. I can't fuck with her. I can't fuck with her. I can't fuck with her. We outside. Yeah. Body camera fell. Another one fell. You cannot fuck with her. I'm about to taser. Oh, she grabbing her gun, y'all.
Put spray on that bitch. I'm gonna knock you out. I will knock you the fuck out and take your fucking gun. Seriously though. Seriously, I will knock you the fuck out.
They can't fuck with her.
Knock you the fuck out and take your fucking gun. Stop.
They cannot fuck with her.
Yo, macho.
Run.
Macho.
Terrible. Not even beating them up. I think the whole scenario is awful. That was bad. So let's see. I might have something here. All right, I got a little story with this. There is a complaint report on file for resisting arrest on Thursday, April 3rd at approximately 16:30 inside of 42nd Street Times Square substation in the confines of Transit District 1, Midtown South Precinct. Officers observed an individual selling goods within the transit system without permission or authority. While attempting to identify the individual, they refused to provide identifications. Officers attempted to place the individual under arrest, and the individual resisted. The individual was arrested and charged. 28-year-old female. She was charged with resisting arrest, governmental administration, violation of local law, and disorderly. So, what'd you think overall on the situation, Eric?
Well, where are they getting on the radio asking for help? Because clearly the two of them are succumbed by a huge crowd. They can't even see the crowd. The way they're positioned, they're facing the wall trying to get this female perpetrator into handcuffs. They have a huge crowd behind them. They need to get themselves in a position, obviously right now, until they wait. And I don't know if they got on the radio yet. We don't have the full context for this. But if they did, they need to get themselves in a position, turn that girl around to where they can see the crowd, because now they're in a bad spot. They're fighting with this girl while the crowd is just completely succumbed. Honestly, they're lucky at this point the crowd didn't actually attack them, because if they did, they'd be in honestly a world of hurt. This is a terrible scene right here. Terrible scene. I mean, and again, they can't get her down. The training is terrible. Not only that, I mean, they just don't look. Just the way they're actually handling this girl. The training is so inept, so inadequate, and it's like they're trying with kick gloves. It's terrible. But look at that crowd behind them. They're not even asking for help.
And again, we talk about diaphragm law, and we talk about, how it's impossible, because even right there, right, there's pressure on her diaphragm. It's absolutely impossible to not put pressure on the diaphragm. And what we see is this is time and time again, this is systemic. It's not because they're two females. If you looked in the past at two females, what they would have done traditionally is they would have grabbed her around the head prior to the Eric Gardner situation. They would have swept her leg, took her down on the floor, put her in handcuffs, used their knees and elbows to pain compliance, to have her put her hands behind her back. And then they would have rolled her over to a side or picked her up, got her an ambulance if she needed, and arrested her. And this whole scenario should have came to a close within 60 seconds. But it wasn't. And the reason that it needs to come to a close fast is there is a large crowd. So I think going forward, if you're in a situation like this, you're in a subway station, 42nd Street subway station, where there's going to be a few 100,000 people passing you in a matter of minutes. I think it's imperative before you take police action that you have enough people to not only subdue the individual, but to also secure the scene. Very dangerous scene. They couldn't control the perpetrator. They couldn't control the scene. And you clearly saw the one individual saying, I'm going to knock you out and take your gun. I'm going to knock you out and take your gun. And these scenarios, right? Like, I get it. It's wrong. This lady, people pay thousands upon thousands of dollars, hit with fines all the time to be legal licensed vendors. And this woman's just coming here, just vending and making cash, and it's illegal, and that's not how we do business. But we have to take that into account before we go hands on how people are going to react to that in the public, especially with large crowds around. This is a very, very dangerous situation, not only from that perpetrator, but there are numerous other people in that crowd who are a direct physical threat to those officers. You got to really be cognizant of that.
Well, here's the problem, right? So we're missing a lot of context, right? So we don't know we don't know what led up to the actual physical struggle to where they're actually trying to place this female perpetrator in handcuffs. So yes, ultimately, you want to wait till help arrives before you actually get hands-on with this suspect, with this person of interest, to actually place him into handcuffs, especially with the ferocity and the velocity of this crowd. This is a huge crowd, especially at 42nd Street substation. Very transient. It's the huge crowd, and you have, as far as I'm concerned, that subject in the crowd that should be arrested for his threatening statements. But they're very fortunate that this crowd did not attack, because if this crowd did take action, we'd have 2 dead police officers right now. So we don't know what led up to this. If this female subject did initiate the physical altercation, so we don't know that. I would like to believe that they would be intelligent enough to wait till they get help before they go hands-on with a suspect with such a large crowd, because it's just tactically it's terrible. You have to divert your attention between your subject and this crowd. It's just virtually impossible. And while simultaneously they're both facing the wall, they didn't even position themselves where they had their backs to the wall, at least if they were wrestling with the perpetrator. But again, we lost those masculine traits that we talked about for them to have the ability to use. I mean, you can see they're kind of using kick gloves. They're not even trying to sweep the leg or take it down to the ground. Where the head goes, the body goes. They're not trying to grab the head, obviously, because they're concerned about the chokehold band. They're not putting any pressure. They're concerned about the diaphragm lock. But aside from that also is the lack of training. The lack of training, the lack of having someone that actually has those attributes, those masculine traits to do this job. And we can see those 2 female police officers, they don't appear to be in tip-top shape either. So it's a conglomerate of issues. It's the optics, them fearing CCRB, fearing legislation, politics, fearing their own leadership. It's bad tactics because of lack of training. And it's also lacking those masculine traits and the attributes to actually do this job. So it's just completely terrible. It's sad to watch, and we're just lucky that we don't have crowds really succumb and encompass police officers. If they wanted to take their firearms and take their lives, they could. This is absolutely terrible. So I really wonder if they ever even got on the radio and asked for help, because especially in transit, 42nd Street. You would assume that the help would arrive rather quickly. This is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, again, and I forget who said it. Crazy 10-7 says they had training. They were trained not to act. That's the point. I mean, and that's my point with saying that doesn't matter that they're females or not, because we've seen this time and time again. We show you a video every time we're on this podcast, and it's systemic. It's systemic. It's not, oh, it's these two. These people are afraid. The NYPD is afraid to do what needs to be done. How do you get someone in handcuffs? You get them to the ground. How do you get a resisting perpetrator in handcuffs? You take them to the ground first. What do you do when you're on the ground? You use pain compliance to get their hands behind their back. Those tools, thanks to the city council and thanks to the theory that we've came up with about why we should get rid of laws or create laws in New York City Council and the state Senate, have led to this is what policing looks like today. This is what it is. Hoist Gracie's training for his whatever system that he created, that he did the training. It starts on the ground.
Hannah Gracie.
Whatever. Hannah Gracie. It starts on the ground. Get him to the ground, Henner. I know you could get him there, Henner, but how are we doing without violating the diaphragm law? Still haven't seen that till today. No one has created that, and the reason they hasn't been created almost 5 years later is because actually it's over 5 years now. The reason that hasn't been created is because it's impossible. You have to use compression on someone's diaphragm to not only take them to the ground, but in order to handcuff a resisting perpetrator. It's just the facts.
Johnny is spot on. That's why, I trained in boxing for many years, and I did jiu-jitsu for many years. And then I decided, and you're exactly that. Like, okay, my stand-up is great, and I'm great on the ground. But what about the middle, the transition period? How do you get that person to the ground? And that's why I took a lot of wrestling classes and judo classes, because it's that middle ground. You're absolutely right. I agree. With Hannah Grace's training, yes, the perpetrator, the subject is on the ground, but how do we get there? So you have to learn how to take someone down for 2 reasons. One, how do you get someone down? And how do you actually stop someone from taking you down? So it's important to have that middle ground training, either some wrestling or some judo. And unfortunately, the police officers lack training, and they also lack mindset. You can see, I mean, even with this video, can't really see their faces too much, but we can tell that they're not in it. You know, they don't have that warrior mindset. As you said before, warriors versus guardians. You can tell the way they're moving that they're not really putting emphasis on it, right? There's too much fear of optics. There's too much fear of the crowd. There's too much fear because they lack training. They just don't have the attributes to actually do this job. It's terrible. I mean, look, you know, I'm not picking on her, but one police officer just looks like she's completely out of shape. I'm sorry. I don't know if she's a sergeant. I can't see it that good with the taser, but she looks like she's out of shape, and that's a problem. I mean, if you're a police officer, you have to maintain a high level of physical fitness. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to, because if you're in a tussle for 30 seconds, you need to train constantly to feel secure in those 30 seconds, because 30 seconds in a tussle is a long time. And if you're not training, that 30 seconds could give you a heart attack. I mean, I'm sure after this, they were probably so exhausted that they're spent for the entire day. They're probably sore today because they're not maintaining physical fitness. It's very important. And they don't have these attributes. This is a horrible scene. And it's unfortunate when we do this podcast that it's one video after another, and it's not isolated to one incident, that this is systematic throughout the police department. This is the overwhelming majority of the NYPD operate in this manner, with a lack of training, with a lack of ability, the fear of optics, and put themselves in a position where they're so vulnerable right now that if this crowd took action, they would be dead. Absolutely. I mean, we have someone here so emboldened saying that if she takes out her firearm, he's going to knock them out. Man, if I could jump through the screen, if I had a chance to get to this perpetrator, I would love to, because it makes my blood boil that we have people out there that have no fear of cops anymore, that think it's okay to actually harass police officers, put them in such a threatening manner. And it has nothing to do with male or female. He could care less what they are. He sees blue. To them, they're just law enforcement.
Chief Patrick Jordan at LA County Sheriff's Department, retired chief, host of Briefing with the Chief. Check that podcast out. He says leg sweeps and hip tosses were my go-to. Basic judo tactics. I mean, I think that was how we were trained, all of us. I mean, I don't think the first thing we're doing, there's two of us on one individual. We can't get their hands behind their back. They're fighting with us. We're going to take them to the ground. I mean, that's how we were trained. But clearly, that is not the training today in the NYPD. And that is not the training in the NYPD because of the diaphragm. Because of, remember what Chief Terrence Monahan said is, we can't be afraid. We can't be afraid. Well, guess what? It looks like people are afraid. And I don't fault them, but you know, at the height of these tussles, I mean, your life is on the line here. Your life is on the line, not only by this female, but by numerous other people. So again, if you're gonna react in these situations, my advice to you is don't get hooked. Call for backup before you go in to make the arrest. Get enough people there to be able to contain the crowd and to get the individual in handcuffs. Yes, 2 police officers should be able to get this individual in handcuffs. I agree. Can 2 police officers police this entire crowd? No. You're still going to be in a bad situation. There's a lot of people there. Anything can happen. It's New York. You see the idiots. You see the people trying to get in and raise the crowd and cause a crowd to form and trying to and talk to you in a threatening manner. Threatening and violent manner with threatening and tumultuous behavior. It just is what it is. You know, New York's a dangerous place. You're on 42nd Street. You're in the subway. Don't put your life on the line to get a stupid summons or to remove a vendor. Call for help first. Who cares what anybody says?
John, I always say it, right? Policing is not a one-size-fits-all, right? And you have to police it by incident. This is one incident, not one person. This incident right there, this scene right here, ultimately, it could take 30 police officers to actually get this scene under control and get this perpetrator out in chain of custody safely. You need someone to maybe shut down the exit there. You need a couple of police officers to control that crowd. You need a couple of police officers to watch the vehicles outside. You need a couple of police officers to control the traffic outside as you get this perpetrator upstairs and out of the transit system. This is not one person they're dealing with. This is one incident. Every scene calls for a different amount of police officers, especially in New York City, where it's highly dense and densely populated. It takes more police officers to bring one person in custody or one perpetrator. Maybe in a different area, maybe somewhere rural or somewhere suburban, like a 7-Eleven parking lot, 2 police officers may be applicable to that particular scene. But a scene like this in New York City, especially in transit, where it's so voluminous, it could take 30 police officers, no doubt in my mind, to get that scene under control. And it could take even more.
Yeah, I think so I think we nailed it. I think again, everyone on here saying that the arrest will be declined prosecution. I think we all agree that that's exactly what's going to happen, and then it leads to why should we do that? So yeah, absolutely. So all right, I guess we could end it here. Eric, you got anything to add, or you got?
No, outstanding. Actually, I'm laughing because my daughter's pulling my arm while I'm doing the podcast. I just want to say thank you, everyone, for the support. Support anyone suffering from cancer right now. 2 hours and 30 minutes into it. Like, share, and subscribe. Can public officials block citizens on social media? You know the answer. Check us out Wednesday. Thank you, everybody. Look forward to the Executive Perspective on Wednesday, and tomorrow, Sal Greco. Take care.
Yeah, guys, Sal Greco's got who does he got coming on? He's got Jim Walden coming on Tuesday. I think retired Inspector Tony Raganella is going to join Ron. Hopefully, Rob will be there also. Rob's not up to speed, so hopefully he gets better. Rob, feel better. Get your voice back. But tomorrow, Sal Greco's got Jim Walden coming on. They're going to go break down further what we were talking about with his views on the Eric Adams decision and him running as independent, his views on the mayoral race. So definitely check that out. Eric, you got anything else, or are you good?
No, I think it's an awesome episode. I look forward to Jim Walden. I think he's been a gentleman. I love every time Jim Walden appears on this podcast. I think it's great conversation. I find him to be extremely genuine. I like him. And I think he's a likable person. I think other people like him also. So check him out. And I think he's definitely a player in this race. Unfortunately, right now, I don't think he has the percentage in the polls in comparison. But I think he should be given some real consideration. I think he's definitely someone that we should look at.
Yeah. And follow our social media. If we're not on block by 3:00, check out. We'll have a DOI complaint for Kaz Daughtry. We'll be putting that out on the social media at The Finest Unfiltered on Instagram, at The Finest Cast on X. We'll see you. Finest Unfiltered. We'll be back at you, people.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.